Welcome to Anime T23, where we explore alternate realities and dive deep into the untold fanfiction of your favorite anime characters. In today's video, we're diving into a question that changes everything about Naruto Uzumaki's life. What if Naruto had been neglected by his family, a boy who was destined to be the protector of the village, but instead grew up forgotten and shunned, left to face the world alone? The pain of abandonment, a life without the love of parents or the support of friends. What would this isolation do to a child like Naruto? Would it break him, or would it awaken something far darker? When there's no one to guide him, when the world turns its back on him, Naruto finds an ancient power within himself, the legendary with style, a power long thought to be lost, one that could change the balance of the entire ninja world. But how will this dark gift shape his journey? Join us as we explore this what-if scenario, and watch as Naruto's life takes a shocking turn. Will his loneliness lead him down a path of destruction, or will he rise as a new force to be reckoned with? Hit that like button, subscribe to Anime T23, and don't forget to ring the bell so you never miss a moment of these epic what-if scenarios. Now, let's dive into part 4 of What If Naruto Was Neglected by His Family and Released with Style. Enjoy the journey. Rumble in the jungle, the Sannin bites his thumbs as the deadly cannonball of wind-style chakra barrels towards him, extending his hands out towards it as it closes in. Summoning Jutsu. Single Rashomon, he utters as a sealing formula accompanied by a cloud of smoke appears from his hands. The smoke is immediately blown away by the incoming attack, revealing a large, thick, and shut gate with a demonic-looking face upon it. The projectile smashes into the gate, immediately denting it, though encountering resistance. Naruto watches from above as his attack spins against the shield for a few seconds before bursting through, ripping through all in its path before it impacts with the forest floor, creating a massive dome-shaped explosion, dust and debris rising up past the canopy of trees into the sky. The punctured gate falling to the ground to add to the dust and debris forming. Naruto stands in the same spot, eyes narrowed and awaiting the scene to clear. He can still sense the enemy's chakra. Now to see how much, and or if he's injured, he produces 2 kunai as he hears coughing. With Team 8 Gaikori, no wonder they're moving in groups. Neji scoffs once again as the group of Cloud Shinobi lay strewn about before the Leaf Cadets. He turns to see the object of his ire examining one of the pink crystals the blue-haired rookie girl had produced. Incredible. I never would have guessed you were a Kekiai Genkai wielder. Tell me, when did you awaken it? Lee questions Kaori in fascinated interest. She opens her mouth to answer whilst sheepishly rubbing her head, when all heads turn as the sound of an explosion is heard in the distance. That's the direction Sasuke headed in, she voices in heavy concern. Then that is where we should be heading right now as well. Lee responds, beginning to step away. Kaori not far behind. That's not a good idea, Neji warns Byakugan active, having not bothered to waste it on the Cloud weaklings. We don't have time for more of this. Kaori turns, retorting, having had her fill of the Hyuga's naysaying. That sounded like a fight, and right now I see 2 mammoth chakras opposite one another. At first glance, neither of them are anywhere near Genin, the lavender-eyed boy elaborates, earning gas from the group just as they spot the cloud of debris and dust rising in the distance. The Uchiha is heading towards both of them, and the closer he gets, the more visible that sinister chakra from before seems to become. If you go over there, you'll be walking into the middle of a bear fight, he warns. Silence ensues for a few moments before Lee clenches his fist, raising it in the air. So Satsuki is not among them? Lee questions. No, Neji responds, narrowing his eyes, having recognized one of the chakra signatures from its snow-white color her teammate is. The loud one's brother, he reveals, earning shocked gasps from the group. No way. Naruto? Choji asks, earning a nod from the Hyuga. Shikamaru's eyes narrow at the revelation. It had never been hard to tell back in the academy that Naruto was never even trying, but to think he had been hiding this all along. First the speed he displayed to protect Ino before the written exam, and now this. Kaori grits her teeth in frustration. This whole damned exam has been a disaster. Hisa has completely disappeared. Sasuke is about to walk into a hornet's nest and is barely keeping a grip on himself, and here she is standing around doing nothing. No! She defies inwardly. She turns and springs off without a word, all the genin present apart from Niji and Tenten calling out her name. Lee tries to spring after her only for an open palm to the chest to stop him, which he blocks with his forearm. Niji standing in his way. What the hell are you doing? The boy in green demands angrily. The rest of you can do whatever you want, he says, glancing at the rookies before turning his head back to Lee. But if you want to throw your life away on a whim, you'll have to go through me first, Niji firmly states, shifting into his clan's famed trademark taijutsu stance. Lee frowning, and responding by doing the same with his own. You guys, stop it. Tenten shouts, coming between them. Step out of the way, Tenten. This has been a long time coming, the thick-browed boy utters in a serious tone. No. You two are acting stupid. We're on the same team, damn it. She scolds, only for Lee to swiftly move past her so fast she can't react, making a beeline for Niji, aiming a fist at the face which is parried and countered with an attempted open palm to the chest, also blocked, the two exchanging a flurry of taijutsu blows. Hey! Cut it out! Shikamaru yells, weaving the rat sign as his shadow extends forward, meeting with the shadows of the two males to stop them, Lee frozen with a fist cocked back and Niji an open palm. You're an imbecile. Niji insults. I would rather be a loyal imbecile than disloyal, and anything else, Lee retorts, Tenten watching on dejectedly. I don't deserve this with Naruto. Naruto watches on, the debris now lifting, awaiting to see the damage to his opponent. Slowly a silhouette becomes visible, hucking it over and clutching its side. Orochimaru spits out a mouthful of blood, putting a hand to his side, looking down and seeing a sizable wound. He looks ahead as the debris and dust lift to see his single Rashomon gate on the ground, a hole torn through it. The demon face that adorned it now only having the edges left of it. Naruto can now see his opponent hunched over. His ears perk up slightly as he hears what he thinks he's mistaken for chuckling. Then he realizes he isn't mistaken as it shifts to full-on laughter, the enemy lifting his head. Golden eyes meeting blue as Orochimaru bursts into a fit of deranged laughter, Naruto frowning at the sight. This guy, is he not human or is he just crazy? The blonde questions himself, watching on in disbelief. It could be a combination of both. The Sannin bursts into malevolently joyous laughter as soon as he lays eyes on the sight of his destroyed Rashomon gate, a feat never achieved before. His tongue leaves his mouth, dangling from it again as he crouches low, Naruto stiffening in readiness as he sees the warning. There's no question. He's the one, the snake summoner says to himself as his body changes shape, springing forwards and slithering at new speeds, evading a torrent of shuriken and kunai from above and slithering up the tree towards the blonde, sword in hand. Naruto running down said tree to meet him halfway, kunai and sword clashing, sparks flying as the Sannin's lower half takes its original shape. The ninja tools clash a few more times as the shinobi exchange blows before the older of the two smacks one of the younger's kunai out of his hand, slamming a fist into his stomach, Naruto coughing up spit. He keeps a hold of the kunai in his other hand, however, sending it right into the wound in his enemy's side, who yells in pain, more blood flowing from his mouth. The two stare into one another's eyes, once again Naruto glaring daggers, whilst Orochimaru smiles wryly once again, the inside of his mouth red with his own blood, as he digs his fist deeper into the boy's midsection, who responds by pushing his kunai deeper into the male's side. Suddenly the man releases his sword from his left hand, tossing it up and swinging his fist into the side of the boy's face, who stumbles back, a right fist sending him stumbling back again, before a spin kick sends him flying down to the forest floor, landing on his hands and knees. The Sannin, meanwhile, pulls the kunai from his side, catching his sword in his hand once again before disappearing, and reappearing on the ground as well. Meters away as Naruto gets back on his feet, turning with a look of defiance still cemented on his now bleeding face, which the older shinobi smirks at. He held back and played with the boy a bit, and ended up getting wounded for it. He's impressed. The Lion Fist Taijutsu style, as well as the godly Mountain Wind. Those are two hallmarks of the arsenal of the legendary Akasada Takahashi. The Typhoon of the Hidden Cloud Orochimaru speaks, Naruto's expression remaining the same. He single-handedly dominated entire battlefields during the Third Shinobi War, conquering armies on his own with his otherworldly wind-style affinity. He continues, neither a Jinchuriki nor the Raikage. He was still considered the Hidden Cloud's ultimate weapon, and believed to be their only hope of winning the war. In the build-up to the climax of the war, however, he vanished from the face of the earth, never to be seen or heard from again, taking all his ninjutsu with him. The Sannin says before allowing a short silence, interrupted only by the humming wind. Tell me, boy, how is it that you of all people possess that shinobi's jutsu, so coveted by the rest of the shinobi world, and even his own village, he questions, Naruto's frown of concentration still in place. Another moment of silence passing before he speaks again. You said earlier you wanted to know how similar I was to my father, right? Now you have an idea, he simply answers, saying no more. Orochimaru smirks, needing no further explanation. The concept of masters acting as adopted fathers is a fairly common one in the shinobi world. Once upon a time, the third Hokage was essentially his father. The concept usually applies to orphaned children, however, which the Sannin can't help but chuckle at, as the puzzle that lay scattered before him starts to piece itself together, though not entirely. The boy's cold eyes, his words just now, and the fact that the shadow clone jutsu seems to be the only technique he shares with his parents. Not to mention the treatment he's been subjected to since the day of his birth, which Orochimaru had witnessed some of with his own eyes, exclusively reserved for him and not his siblings, the Suedo Jinchuriki. A glint dances in his eyes as the rogue ninja sees the perfect combination of circumstances laid out before him. That headband around your head, does it mean anything to you, he questions, the question taking Naruto by surprise, though the boy, in typical fashion, allows his face to betray no emotion, simply remaining silent to the rogue ninja's slight glee. What meaning does it hold for you? What meaning does a life of servanthood in this village, where even your own flesh and blood see nothing in you, truly hold? He continues, Naruto's face remaining blank. Scorned, despised, hated, feared by all, accepted by none. This is a path that only a select and chosen few in this world are worthy of walking. He continues as a reminiscent image of a dark-haired young boy wearing a scarred leaf headband with a similarly expressionless demeanor appears for a moment in the blonde's place. This is our first time truly meeting one another, but I can already tell. Your latent potential may be greater than anything I've seen, he speaks. Naruto slightly impressed at how the older ninja seems to be ignoring the injury to his side, save for a hand to it, while talking. He doesn't react to the comment, however. He's heard it a few times before. With the right guidance, I dare to say you could become not only the finest shinobi to walk this earth in his lifetime, but also the finest it's seen in this era at least. And that's just the start, he adds to himself, blood now leaving his mouth to contrast his stainlessly white fangs. It would take a good bit of work, but I could shape you into a shinobi who the Leaf themselves would kneel helplessly before. One who even the fourth himself and his three chosen ones would fall to. The snake Sannin utters lowly, eyes locked on the boy to catch even a glimpse of a reaction. All you have to do is remove that meaningless accessory from your head, place it on the ground behind you, and follow me to your destiny. Naruto stares back expressionless as the older ninja gazes, silently awaiting an answer. He produces two more kunais, slipping back into a battle-ready stance. Sorry, not interested, he responds, plainly sprinting toward the man. Sparks flying once again as the two exchange a flurry of swings, sword and kunai in hand before Orochimaru kicks the boy back, glancing at his side and grunting lowly while weaving through a series of hand signs. Naruto recognizes them, weaving a single sign, the resultant clone grabbing him by the arm and tossing him high into the air to avoid the attack. Wind style. Great breakthrough. The The gust of wind bursts, the clone disappearing. Naruto twists in the air, frowning as he notes a chakra signature approaching himself and the enemy's location. Sasuke Uchiha. Now of all times, this guy is getting annoying. His brow furrows slightly more as he notes the change in the Uchiha's chakra. It's recognizable, but there's a darker and more malevolent undertone to it. With Satsuki and Ino, Satsuki's eyes flutter, the lids heavy. They lift and fall repeatedly as the blur beneath her slowly shifts into a clearer picture. That picture being the forest floor moving below her as she watches from the trees. She realizes that she's moving at high speed and that she's draped over someone's shoulder. Instinctively, her elbow swings, meeting the stranger's face. A cloud of smoke engulfing her vision, but not enough to stop her from reaching out her arms. One above to grab hold of a tree branch, and one below to grab her unconscious teammate's hand as she falls. The stranger now gone into thin air along with the smoke. Satsuki grunts in frustration at her own limbs, still partially asleep and numb. She swings her right arm a couple of times, swinging her teammate and draping her over a tree branch, earning a grunt from the Yamanaka, who begins to move as Satsuki pulls herself onto the thick branch. "Ino, are you okay? Do you have any injuries?" she questions, the blonde groaning, a hand to her neck. "No, I'm fine," she groans out. "We were being transported by a clone. I destroyed it before I even got a look." Satsuki utters before a gasp escapes her as realization finally comes crashing into her, head swiveling. "Wait, where's Naruto?" Ino cuts her off. "Satsuki, he knocked us both out. That clone was his. He stayed back to fight that man alone," her exclamation trailing into a horrified whisper, hands to her mouth almost as if to stop the words that had already left it. Satsuki launches a fist into the tree branch they are both kneeling on, teeth gritted in rage. "You idiot! You stupid idiot!" She jumps to her feet, Sharingan active, eyes darting everywhere. She has no idea how long she was unconscious. They could be, and probably are, miles away from him and that freak. "Naruto!" The Kunoichi shout in unison. With Naruto's ear rests against the trunk of the tree he is crouched behind. Suddenly he springs from behind it as it explodes into pieces as another gigantic snake summon smashes through it. His opponent has resorted to medium to long-range combat to compensate for his injury. Orochimaru watches on as the boy springs away from behind a tree as his summon barrels through it. A burst of smoke emerges from his sleeveless jacket before he swings a Fuma Shuriken, the weapon sailing through the air and into the animal's open mouth as it closes in on him, ripping through the roof of its maw and emerging through its head to continue and bury itself in a nearby tree trunk. As it rides about, the life fading from it, he produces two more Fuma Shuriken, one in each hand, swinging and tossing them at his opponent, their trajectories intersecting as they sail towards him. The Sannin's body bends and contorts at inhumane angles to dodge the projectiles. He backflips as a large fireball crashes into the position he was standing in. That smile once again graces his lips as the smoke lifts to reveal Sasuke standing ahead of him and a few steps in front of Naruto. A callous frown adorns his face, the mark on his neck pulsing. What the Sannin takes notice of before anything else, however, is the evolved Sharingan in the boy's eyes, both now bearing two Tomo. The sight fills him with glee, and that of Naruto walking forwards to stand next to Sasuke does so even more. "Sasuke, how kind of you to join Dash," the rogue ninja says. "Shut up, bastard. Where's my sister?" the Uchiha demands, Orochimaru simply chuckling to himself, serving to further enrage the young Uchiha. "Answer me now, so I can finish you," he adds coldly as the mark begins to glow less statically, spread across the left side of his face, down his neck and arm, Naruto watching on with eyes narrowed. "What the hell is that?" he muses to himself, as he senses that same malevolent undertone become more prominent, eyes glued to the mark on the Uchiha's neck as his chakra exponentiates. "It seems to be a 3-tomo pattern. Unfortunately, I have no idea," he sighs. "The one standing next to you knows the answer to that question," he answers, Sasuke turning his head to see the blonde gazing ahead at the enemy. Satsuki is safe, and you shouldn't have come here, Naruto plainly says. Sasuke turns his head from the blonde, who is sporting a few bruises and scars, back to the freak and gasps slowly as he finally takes notice of the sizable wound in the ninja's side, eyes darting back to Naruto. This is quite convenient, actually. I'm almost out of time, so why don't we make this last act a worthy one? Why don't the two of you show me why you're so different one more time, he utters, flying through hand signs, the two weaving through their own set in response. Fire style, Dragon Flame Jutsu. Fire style, Fireball Jutsu. Water style, Tidal Wave Jutsu. The three techniques collide with one another, a huge burst of steam the result. Naruto grabbing Sasuke and leaping back until they stand outside the huge cloud of steam. Naruto holding up a single-handed sign to infuse chakra, his eyes shut while on one knee. Water Y dash. SSSSHHHH. Naruto silences. We're not going to beat this guy. Your teammate is heading in our direction. Go back the way you came and you and her get as far away from here as you can. If this doesn't work, nothing will. If what doesn't work, what are you talking about? I'm not going anywhere until I see Satsuki with my own EY dash. Sasuke doesn't finish his sentence as a low gasp escapes him. The blonde's eyelids rise to reveal his eyes are now a white glowing color. The irises and whites now completely gone and replaced by this glowing white. His left eye returns to its normal state, but his right retains the ominous snow-white glow. His chakra. It's insane, Sasuke says inwardly in disbelief. Curse mark still in place. Inhale asterisk, exhale asterisk, inhale asterisk control. With Orochimaru, the Sannin stands still as the cloud of steam rushes toward him and immerses him. Sasuke's fire style is stronger than earlier, which he is impressed by, but that use of water style. Such volume from simply his own chakra. He'd only expect something like that from Kisame. This boy is truly a diamond. It's a shame I can't give him a gift like Sasuke. His chakra would surely overpower it, he muses to himself. Nevertheless, he will be mine. His body wielded at its full potential will have no equal in this world. With him, even the combined force of Minato and the Akatsuki wouldn't be enough to stop me. If I wanted the Sharingan, I would be able to simply take it. The tail beasts themselves would be rendered my puppets, he analyses, beginning to chuckle, he grunts, reaching for his bloody side once again. He's starting to feel the effects of that jutsu. A dark laugh escapes him once again, as the thought remains in his mind. A god of shinobi. I like the sound of it with Team 8 and Guy. Look, how about you two stop acting like knuckleheads so I can let you go? This is really a drag, Shikamaru sighs in exasperation. The two older genin still restrained by his jutsu. Lee glares daggers at Niji, while the Hyuga simply stares blankly back. Byakugan still active. What are you seeing? Tenten questions knowingly, before heads turn as another boom is heard. This one a bit less thunderous than the last. Shikamaru! Sasuke's gone over there, Sakura utters in horror. Staring in the direction of the sound, we have to go stop him, she pleads, the Nara heaving another sigh. Hyuga, what exactly is happening over there right now? Shikamaru questions. Niji frowns. I can't see them anymore, they're out of my range, he grunts, responding to the group's disappointment. With Satsuki and Ino. Satsuki Ino calls for the second time, as the two leap through the trees. Satsuki, the Yamanaka repeats before reaching for the Uchiha's arm and grabbing her to stop. What, damn it? Satsuki whips around angrily. We have no idea how long we were out for, or the direction we were taken in. We could be moving away from him. Or he could... The blonde says, trailing off, not wanting to finish the sentence. Satsuki raises a fist, smashing it against the trunk of the tree branch they stand on, splinters flying. Ino watches on as her teammate shakes with rage, head bowed and eyes shadowed. The Yamanaka feels the sting of tears in her eyes. That damn idiot, Satsuki utters through clenched teeth and tightly shut eyes, desperate not to show the tears behind them to the world. Sasuke, Naruto, with Orochimaru. He ducks down as a large carnivorous plant, having emerged from the ground a few seconds ago, swings a tendril over his head. It changes direction, smacking him through the air, a long snake emerging from his sleeve to stop another tendril as he lands. It's annoyingly fast for its size. The creature, mouth wide, tries to pull him towards itself, the man swinging his sword and slicing through his own snake to stop his motion, the creature tossing it into its mouth. It attempts to beeline for him again, but as he readies himself for its attack, the creature suddenly freezes before twisting and burrowing into the ground, leaving Orochimaru alone with his sword, the steam from earlier still not having fully lifted. An expression of confusion shifts to a frown as the Sannin stands in still anticipation. Something's coming. So, what exactly do you have up your sleeves now? He wonders out loud. With Naruto, he rises to both feet, Sasuke watching on in shocked silence. This guy, Itachi, is this why you dash? His train of thought is interrupted as the ground begins to rumble and shake. He looks down, his eyes allowing him to see into the earth, and the sight earns another gasp from him. The carnivorous Buddha explodes from the earth to tower over both boys, Sasuke sporting a shocked look, whilst Naruto retains the same stern expression. The creature swings back before swinging towards them, Sasuke attempting to weave through a set of hand signs while Naruto simply stares ahead, eyes not even on the creature. It descends on them, mouth open, to swallow the Uchiha whole, burrowing into the ground, leaving Naruto standing next to a large hole. All right, here we go. If this doesn't work, then I guess that's the end of that, he says to himself casually, eyes still glowing as he lifts his hands up and brings them together. Tiger * ram * snake * the steam finally lifts, Orochimaru locking eyes with the blonde once again, hands locked in the snake sign. He notes his glowing right eye, smirking slightly in anticipation, as his body tingles at the sensation off that chakra, the air itself shifting. Then he realizes Sasuke is gone, and so is the carnivorous plant. What exactly are these boys, you? Orochimaru's train of thought grinds to a halt as the words that emerge from the boy's mouth earn a gasp from him. With style, deep force emergence, silence. The ground begins to rumble and shake once again more so than before. The Sannin watches on in disbelief as the earth before the boy cracks open, large limbs of wood rising and unraveling, growing and stretching out. The wooden limbs tower over the boy, erasing him from Orochimaru's sight as the limbs barrel towards him. The Sannin simply watches on with wide eyes as a justice spoken of in legends and war tales, one said to have shaped the very landscape around them, barrels towards him. With Kaori continues leaping through the trees, desperately trying to reach her destination. Damn it. Sasuke is faster than before, she notes, thinking back to the Uchiha's display against the cloud shinobi, albeit brief. She stops in her proverbial tracks as the tree she stands on shakes with the rest of the ones around her as the earth emits a mighty rumble. The rumble grows stronger, the kunoichi looking down to see a sizable spiderweb of cracks in the ground below. The cracks explode outwards, an enormous four-sided Venus flytrap springing from the ground. Kaori falling back off the tree branch she stood on with a yell, landing on the ground below with a thud. An expression of shock and fear shifts to one of confrontation as she produces multiple kunai with explosive tags strapped to them. The creature brings its head back and hurls a projectile out of its mouth towards the girl. Kaori, releasing two of the kunai towards it before her face, contorts with horror as she realizes what the projectile actually is. Sasuke's eyes allow him to see the two kunai rigged with explosives, coming towards him in slow motion. He produces four of his own, throwing two that disrupt the trajectory of the oncoming ninja tools by colliding with them, and another two that fly into the holes at the end of each handle, sending the kunai flying away into the depths of the forest behind Kaori. Two explosions simultaneously ring out as Sasuke hits the ground in front of Kaori with a thud. The girl's head darts behind her to see the trees bathed in smoke and fire, and turns back just in time to see the plant creature disappear back into the ground, the only remaining evidence of its presence being a hole in the ground. Sasuke! She falls to her knees, helping the Uchiha into a sitting position. "Are you all right? What the hell was that?" she frets. "I'm fine." "Calm down, Ka-Dash." He pauses as the ground rumbles once again, the source seemingly further away. The two take no chances, jumping to their feet with kunai drawn. They look up into the sky to see another large cloud of debris and dust rising. "Naruto," Sasuke voices internally, watching the dust rise. With Team 8 and Guy, the group stand tensely, having just heard what sounded like another two simultaneous explosions, and then felt something akin to an earthquake moments later, the forest shaking around them. Smoke rising from one part of the forest their fellow cadets ventured into, and a large amount of dust and debris rising in another. "It sounds pretty hot over there," Choji notes with a nervous laugh and a gulp. "Shikamaru." Sakura attempts to plead only to be cut off. "Sakura, we can't just walk into a situation where we're certain to get ourselves killed," he states frankly, the girl looking down dejectedly. "Did you hear that, Lee?" Neji questions his teammate mockingly, the two now freed from their restraints, the boy in green's eyes lighting up with fury in response. The group all stand in silence once again, watching on as a cloud of dust and debris continues to ominously rise in the distance, all wondering just what kind of shinobi, what kind of monsters they've been locked in the same den with. With Minato, they've not been dead for long. Sir the Umbu says as Minato looks on at the domestic security branch AMBU, strewn about on the floor, dead, more the ninja collecting evidence from the scene. Another black operative appears before the blonde in a cloud of smoke. Lord Hokage. He addresses before getting closer to the village leader, whispering in his ear. His face shifts into cold expression of silent fury. The AMBU standing next to Minato and in front of him aren't in the least bit shocked when their leader suddenly disappears into thin air, without so much as a hair left behind. With Enko, the kunoichi groans for the umpteenth time, hand to her neck, as she sits on the grass, in front of one of many entrances to the forest, AMBU shinobi all over the place. A medical shinobi kneeling to her right, penning away on a clipboard. Her head lifts to see a dust cloud rising in the distance, a low rumble audible. The kunoichi gasps lowly as she turns her head to her left to see the Hokage standing over her. Lord Hokage, she addresses as he crouches onto his haunches in front of her. Usually she would crack a joke, but then she sees the look on his face, cold and stern. She hasn't seen that look in years. With Team Guy and 8, the heads of the group turn to see Kaori and Sasuke walk out from behind the trees, the mark on the Uchiha's neck still and silent again. "Sasuke!" Sakura exclaims, sprinting towards the Uchiha only for his dark blue-haired female teammate to stand in front of him, an open hand up to stop her in her tracks. "He's injured, sweetheart. Get your autograph later," she snidely remarks, Sakura growling angrily as the other genin approach, all except for Neji, that is, who stays back, arms crossed. "Kaori, are the two of you all right?" Lee asks. "Yeah. Are you guys okay? It sounded like a war zone over there," Choji adds, chuckling. "We're fine, you guys." Thankfully, the kunoichi responds, smiling at the group. "Were you successful in locating Satsuki? Where is she?" "How is she?" he asks, Kaori's own head turning to Sasuke, who didn't speak a word to her on their way back. "Satsuki's safe," the Uchiha says, Lee heaving a sigh of relief. "I just knew you were going to save her, Sasuke." "Cha!" Sakura exclaims with eyes full of admiration. "It wasn't me," he responds plainly to the girl's apparent surprise. "Why you didn't?" she questions, so who did? "Satsuki's teammate was the one who protected her," he says. "Naruto," Shikamaru says, the group looking around at one another, their expressions conveying their emotions of surprise. "Sasuke," Kaori speaks, earning the Uchiha's attention, "we need to go fight Dash." Looks like I wasn't invited to the party. All in the group turn to see Hizaru emerge from the shadows of the trees, Neji frowning slightly in thought. Impressive stealth, Hisa," his female teammate happily exclaims, running towards him and giving him a playful shove. "You're okay. You're not injured, are you?" "What happened?" she questions, the boy chuckling in response. "I guess I got a little lost, that's all," he chuckles, scratching the back of his head sheepishly as Sasuke approaches the two. "Hey, jerk," Hisatora greets. "Why the long face?" "Were you hoping I was dead?" he questions, smirking. "Hey!" Sasuke, Shikamaru calls out Byofer, referring to Sasuke's exact thought at the moment. "So if you're here, where's Naruto?" Silence ensues, Sasuke's thoughtful expression remaining in place. The carnivorous Buddha explodes from the earth to tower over both boys, Sasuke sporting a shocked look, whilst Naruto retains the same stern expression. The creature swings back before swinging towards them, Sasuke attempting to weave through a set of hand signs while Naruto simply stares ahead, eyes not even on the creature. It descends on them, mouth open, to swallow the Uchiha whole. That creature was summoned by him. Sasuke had his doubts at first, but there aren't any now. There's no way he would have reacted so calmly if he hadn't. He had chosen to stay back and take that freak on all alone. And now one question plagues the Uchiha's mind. Is the blonde still alive? With Orochimaru, his right eye is closed to prevent the blood flowing from his temple from going into it. He emerges from the shadows of the trees into the small, shaded clearing. His demeanor is calm, contrasting his physical appearance. The sizable wound at his side is still present, with a few other notable injuries. Most apparent of these is his right arm, gone from the shoulder. He comes to stand in the center of the clearing, taking a close look at the sight before him. 3 human skulls, each with a hidden sound headband in front of them. Kanji have been carved into the front of the skulls to spell out a message. "You've been warned." "You've been warned," he says simply as a cloud of black smoke surrounds him. A low chuckle emerges from the man as he licks his bloodied lips. This next generation of Leaf Shinobi is going to be something else. He begins to sink into the ground, leaving the scene as it is. In a matter of seconds, he's gone without a trace. Seconds later, Minato stands over the scene, one of his trademark kunai in hand, reading the message to himself a second time before frowning. Warned. Orochimaru's clearly forgotten who he's dealing with. He'll remember soon enough. He turns and walks away, off to find Sasuke, vanishing into thin air as the wind blows. With Naruto, he trudges onward, sleeveless jacket off his shoulders and in one hand and headband in the other. The wind blows through his golden mane, embracing his bruised and battered body as he trudges on and on. Trust none, the wind sings once again, embracing the young shinobi's bruised body. Headband and jacket in hand, he trudges on, an arm rising every so often to wipe sweat and blood from his brow. His third trump card at work, just about. Orochimaru is still alive, but his deep forest emergence has injured the man to the extent of forcing his retreat. The godly mountain wind had been effective in at least subtly restricting his opponent's range of motion and leaving a window open. The Uchiha had nearly ruined everything, but thankfully his first trump card had been on hand. A deep breath is exhaled as he rolls his shoulders. He's pleased by the control he exerted over his own chakra, to control the amount he infused to perform the deep forest emergence. Not an easy feat. The only other time he's gone this far was against Haku, though he'll admit perhaps this was even more extreme. The chances of losing control were higher. He shakes his head as his walk continues. He doesn't want to allow himself to contemplate how his chances against the Sannin might have been impacted by such an outcome. It would have been another disaster entirely. He tucks the leaf headband away rather than around his head, placing his sleeveless jacket back onto his shoulders as he senses them approach him. With Satsuki and Ino. Ino gasps for air as she watches on at Satsuki tear away once again, through the trees. Her speed's marginally gone up since her eyes evolved. Ino notes, without increased rigorous training, yet her body is already attempting to adapt to the increased perception it's been granted. Satsuki's genes are insane, the Yamanaka notes in almost awe. Suddenly, she sees the Uchiha jump down from the canopy to fall to the forest floor below another figure coming into view as Ino tries to catch up. Satsuki bursts forward as her feet meet the ground, bolting towards him. Naruto watches as the kunoichi speeds towards him, eyes glowing red, 2 tomo in each. He sees the fist that she raises and cocks back as she nears him, easily able to react but choosing not to, watching it rush towards him. Ino gasps for a moment before yelling in protest as she sees her female teammate swing a fist that connects with their other comrade's face, sending him onto his back against the ground. Naruto forces his body to stiffen as it instinctively attempts to react, the fist colliding against his already bruised face, sending him to the ground. Satsuki, no! Ino shouts, sprinting towards the two as Satsuki swings one fist after another against the downed boy's face, who lays still as the punches come one after another. You reckless bastard! Who do you think you are, pulling something like Tish Dash? She continues to yell bloody murder as Ino pulls her off the blonde, who proceeds to sit up casually. Where do you get off making decisions for us? Are you Kraz Dash? Satsuki, calm down! Ino commands, still holding the girl back, making herself heard now. The Uchiha clenches her teeth, eyes still crimson, begrudgingly complying as Ino turns to face Naruto, still seated Kami. Naruto, you're all right. Are you carrying any injuries? No, he says plainly, Satsuki further clenching her jaw at his demeanor. Naruto, why would you blindside us like that? Ino asks, her voice and expression becoming serious. I chose the most logical outcome, he responds simply. And why would you call it that? She questions. The enemy was in a completely different class to us. Even if we'd faced him 3 against 1, we wouldn't have won. If anything, the chances of one, if not all 3, of us dying or being taken hostage were much higher, he states. If that's the case, then how are you here? She asks, glancing to her other teammate, clearly still seething. He's still very much alive, but I was able to force him into retreat, Naruto says. The kunoichi gasping in unison. Why you did what? Ino stutters out. Satsuki simply watches on in silence. There it is. Like she'd expected. Just when you think you know how strong he is, you're wrong. What do you mean you forced him to retreat? The Yamanaka questions. I mean I injured him to the extent of no longer being able to fight. Naruto responds plainly. But, ho! She doesn't finish that sentence as the question echoes itself to her once again. How much do they actually know about Naruto? So you're saying all 3 of us together wouldn't have survived, but you did alone, she says, Satsuki still silent, eyes overshadowed by her hair. Naruto gives no response this time, the female blonde looking down, a slight frown adorning her face. The reason you did what you did is because you don't trust us, Satsuki says, speaking up this time, a low gasp from Ino at the blunt accusation. Naruto's demeanor retains the same casual hue. Well, she challenges, Ino moving to stand between the two to prevent any further physical violence. Guys, this is not the time or the place. She attempts to reason as the boy rises back to his feet. I've told you the truth, he utters. Believe what you want. You didn't answer my question, the Uchiha retorts in a challenging tone. Ino's eyes dart between the two as a moment of silence passes. Then the boy speaks. No, that's not the reason. And no, I don't. I don't trust anyone, he says. The wind blows as there is silence again. Yeah, and who says we want to risk our lives alongside someone who doesn't trust us? The Uchiha challenges while Ino looks on with concern. That's your choice, he responds indifferently. But seeing as we now have both scrolls and should be heading for the tower, if you don't want to continue alongside me, now would be the moment to make that clear, so we can forfeit, he adds as there is silence briefly once again. Well, he questions as the Uchiha stares him down, fists still clenched, teeth gritted. With Team 11, you have an Earth Scrolls. Kaori questions an almost disbelief brown-haired teammate. His Zatara digs into his jacket, producing a scroll with a kanji inscribed on it. Earth. Where did you get it? She asks as her Uchiha teammate remains silent, looking on at the scroll. I managed to snag it, he says with a cheeky smirk, Sasuke narrowing his eyes for a moment. The loser is annoying, but he definitely has his own substance to him. So we have one heaven scroll and two earth scrolls, Kaori notes, glancing at Sasuke. You guys have an earth scroll as well? Where did you dash? There you three are. The three genin jump at the fourth voice, producing kunai and jumping back whilst turning. They are met with the sight of the leader of their village. Pretty odd choice of disguise for a genjutsu, Kaori says with an eyebrow raised. It's not a genjutsu, Sasuke corrects, Sharingan active, Kaori gasping lowly. His Zataru isn't surprised to get so close to them unnoticed. That's definitely the Hokage. If he were an enemy shinobi, he'd have been able to kill all three of them before they even knew what was happening. Astonishing. El Lord Hokage, Kaori greets with uncertainty as the man shows a small smile for a moment. Good to see you three. Minato greets before his face shifts into a more stern expression. Listen, I'm not going to beat about the bush. Sasuke, he speaks, addressing his best friend's son, his teammates glancing at him. I have strong information that your life may be in danger. I'm afraid in light of the circumstances, I'm going to have to withdraw you from the exam, he says, earning gas from the other two genin and a frown from the Uchiha. The three of you can only qualify for the next round as a complete unit, so unfortunately, this does mean your team will not be able to progress any further in the exams. It's unfortunate, but it would be gross negligence on my part to allow you to continue at this point. He says only for the Uchiha to respond immediately. I know exactly what you're talking about, the boy says, Minato's eyebrows rising for a moment before his eyes narrow. Do you? With Team 12. Team 12 continue to walk in silence as the entrance to their destination comes into view. Ino glances uneasily at either of her teammates, not a word having been spoken since the blonde male had posed his question. She inwardly sighs to herself as Satsuki pushes the double doors open, Naruto following behind as she steps through as well. She can't remember things ever being this tense since the team was formed. She can only hope the team isn't too badly damaged by her train of thought is interrupted as her eyes are caught by a broken message on the far wall of the open room they find themselves in. Without heaven, she reads aloud. Guys, I think we have to open the scrolls, she surmises, glancing at both teammates who still haven't spoken a word to one another. Naruto produces both scrolls, unraveling both and tossing them before himself. Smoke emerging from the scrolls to FPR in a cloud that lifts quickly to reveal a familiar figure. Iruka-sensei. Ino greets, the Chunin smiling back. Great to see you guys, he greets back happily. What are you doing here, sensei? Only here to congratulate you on passing the second exam, he reveals, Ino beaming while Satsuki retains the same frown that's been on her face for a while now. Naruto expressionless as always. On the second day, you three got here pretty early. Iruka takes note that of the three, Naruto seems to be the most injured, unsurprising considering he's probably the least skilled. The Kunoichi both glance at Naruto. They hadn't taken into account how far that clone had transported them. Allow me to explain the significance of the second exam, Iruka says, clearing his throat, Ino's sweat dropping, Satsuki retaining her cold expression, and Naruto his nonchalant one. With Team 11, I see. So Naruto was left behind alone with that man, Minato asks with his eyes shadowed by his blonde locks. Yes, Sasuke responds, his teammates looking on intently, the Uchiha having fully explained what had transpired in the past day, including when he wasn't with them. His Zataru remains silent, listening intently. So Orochimaru is after the Sharingan, and the fort's eldest fought him? Talk about bombshells. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, huh? He muses to himself. The three of you will have to come with me, so I can remove you from the forest dash. Uncle Minato the Uchiha interrupts, referring to the village leader by an old familiar term. It would bring a smile to his face on any other day. Please let us to complete the exam first. I'll do whatever you need after, but my teammates need to advance, the Uchiha says, Kaori and his Zataru gazing at the Uchiha in surprise. The village leader sighs before producing one of his trademark kunai and throwing it at the Uchiha who catches it in his left hand. Infuse chakra and line it along the kunai if you run into any problems out of the ordinary, he says, emphasizing the last part of the sentence, earning a nod from the boy. I'll still need to speak to all three of you later. Until then, you're not to say a word to anyone about what you've seen today. He orders. In the blink of an eye, the man is gone without a trace again, Kaori casting a nervous glance at the Uchiha. He hadn't mentioned the mark on his neck once to the village leader. That might be a problem later. With Naruto, clone, a figure emerges from the monstrous wooden entanglement to jump down and stand right before him, revealed to be an identical copy of himself. The clone hands him an object wrapped in black, recovered from the giant jigsaw of wood that has completely rearranged as part of the forest. He partially unwraps it, taking a look at the object, before concealing it again, the two sharing a nod before the one holding the object leaps away, the other disappearing in a cloud of smoke. The clone glances back to see a white glow emerge from the depths of the entanglement and bursts away, increasing its speed. With Naruto, "It looks like you had quite the 2 days," Tsunade says, turning to tend to Kushina's eldest again, dragged in by his teammates. He sits on a bed topless, sporting a good few bruises and cuts. He remains silent. Shizen fiddles about in another corner of the room, stealing a glance every so often. Tsunade notes the crimson blush on the kunoichi's face and chuckles to herself. "You're actually the third team to make it here. Your brother and sisters came in earlier today. Another team came in yesterday," she says as she treats a cut on the side of his head. Naruto remains unresponsive. He's willing to bet it's the Sand Shinobi. He wonders how the woman in front of him would react if she knew the one responsible for these injuries was her old teammate. The room suddenly trembles as several explosions, forming one seismic, one seem to ring out in the distance. "That sounds like more from earlier," Shizen says. "Such chaos from only Genin," Tsunade says, shaking her head while the room continues to shake, items falling off shelves. "Just what kind of kids are these?" Naruto feels the memories rushing back, receiving the go-ahead from one of the many clones at the scene, subtly weaving the release sign to detonate the others. He heaves a low sigh of exhaustion. It cost a lot of chakra, but at least his secret is safe. The boy suddenly feels a pair of arms embrace him from behind. If he weren't as tired as he is, he would have reacted violently. He turns his head to see the Hokage clutching onto him. "You're all right," he says, his voice filled with relief. "Are you all right? You're not seriously injured, are you?" "I'm fine, Lord Hokage," Naruto responds plainly. Tsunade watches on at the two with a somber smile. A stranger could tell they're related with a single glance. "You had to have had more faith in the boy than that, Minato," Tsunade playfully says, rolling her eyes while concluding her treatment of the blonde. "It's not that. I knew Naruto would pass. It's something else," he says, the Sannin noting the stern expression on his face. "Please allow me a moment alone with him," he asks, Tsunade nodding and making her way toward the exit with Shizen not far behind. As the sound of the door shutting echoes throughout the room lined with beds, Minato comes to occupy the seat Tsunade had only moments ago. A few moments of silence pass before the older of the two speaks up again. "I've already spoken with Sasuke. Now I'm going to need your account of everything that's happened today." Naruto with Satsuki. Ino calls out at the Uchiha, struggling to hear her own voice over the seismic explosion echoing in the distance. As the noise dies down, Satsuki still marching down the corridor. Ino rushes to hurriedly walk alongside the girl. "Hey, why are you so angry? Listen, Naruto shouldn't have blindsided us like that, but you dash. Don't you get it?" The Uchiha questions coming to a stop. "This proves we know nothing about him. One of the legendary three, Ino. A shinobi we couldn't dream of defeating. He fought someone like that alone and survived. That means everything we've seen up until now has been a facade. The bell test, the land of waves, even this exam, they've all been games to him. But he's protected us, Dash. He knocked us out because he didn't want us to see his real power, Ino. He said himself he doesn't trust us," she retorts. But he still put his life on the line for us, Satsuki, the Yamanaka argues. Satsuki resuming her march in a huff while she follows. Look, Naruto has trust issues, clearly. But so did you. Fancy seeing you guys here. The two kunoichi turn to see Menma leaning against the wall. Menma, Ino greets. So you made it as well. I suppose I shouldn't be surprised. You have got Satsuki on your team after all, he says, smirking at the Uchiha, who simply turns and continues to walk away in a huff. What's up with her? He asks, genuine concern on his face. Ino sighing inwardly at this. Your brother is what's up with her, Ino replies before heading after her teammate. She can talk to Menma later. His face shifts into a frown as the Yamanaka hurries off. The loser is messing with his girl? Not while he has something to say about it. With Minato you fought him. He questions in disbelief. Yes, Naruto responds, although I do strongly suspect he held back to some extent. Even so, Naruto. He is interrupted as the sound of the door opening turns both their heads. In walks a hooded figure clad in black, an outfit identical to the one Naruto wears, apart from his removed top. It closes the door, approaching the two and handing Naruto an object wrapped in a black cloth. The boy holds the object out towards the village leader, who takes it with a quizzical expression. He unwraps the cloth, gasping lowly at the pale, severed human arm in his hands. He recognizes it clearly. He raises his head to look into his son's eyes, who gazes back nonchalantly. Naruto, how? With Team Guy. Will the two of you stop it? I'll beat the both of you senseless. Tenten reprimands as the two boys grip one another's collars, staring each other down, risking our chances of progression over a crush. You ever do anything stupid like that again, and I promise you, I won't show any mercy, the Hyuga vows with narrowed eyes. I look forward to that hour, Niji, he responds brazenly. The sooner you start using your brain and listening, the better for all three of us, the Hyuga replies, shoving the boy in green back. This isn't a game. We still don't know what kind of monsters we're in here with. I was right about the blonde one, and she says, glancing at Tenten. He's only a rookie genin by name. He's far more dangerous. And to think you wanted to fight him, he scoffs, looking back at his male teammate, who stares back. Enough sideshows. Let's find the other scroll and head for the tower, already with Naruto. He walks down the corridor, his top half clothed once again, heading for his temporary quarters. He had told the Hokage mostly everything, leaving a few things out of course, including how exactly he had taken the Sannin's arm off him or caused the other injury the Uchiha had mentioned. He turns left at an intersection of passageways, a familiarly annoying voice calling out to him. Hey! He turns his head to see the son of the man he had been speaking to only a few moments ago. What's your problem with Satsuki, loser? 'Cause it's a problem with me now, he declares. You bored again or something? Get lost, he responds plainly. Continuing with his walk, Menma gritting his teeth in anger at the dismissal. He darts towards the blonde, fist cocked back, intent on teaching him a well-deserved lesson. Suddenly the black and red-haired boy finds himself flying through the air as his fist is caught before he's swung by the arm and ragdolled through the air. He loudly grunts as his back meets the ground, jumping to his feet to swing another fist, this one also being caught. A flurry of taijutsu blows, canceling one another out, is exchanged before Menma gasps for air as the wind is knocked out of him, Naruto's fist meeting his stomach. He heaves a cough, clutching at his midsection as the blonde walks past him to continue on his way. What the hell's going on? This isn't Naruto, such speed and strength. He outstretches his hand to grab the blonde's shoulder only for his wrist to be grabbed, the boy turning his head to make eye contact. Don't use Satsuki as an excuse to chase your little dream of getting under my skin, he utters calmly. He feels his own wrist suddenly gripped as Menma pulls him toward himself, seething. As Menma reels him in for a fist to the nose, he suddenly finds himself on the ground again, the air missing from his lungs once more, Naruto standing over him. Said blonde looks down at him for a few seconds before walking away without a word. What just happened? With Minato and Tsunade. Minato, If there's even a chance you aren't certain of what you've just said, Tsunade utters in a harsh whisper, not trusting even the walls. Instead of responding, the village leader, seated on one of the beds, simply casts his gaze to an object wrapped in black on one of the examination tables in the infirmary. Tsunade catches his silent gesture and approaches the table, unwrapping the mysterious object. A loud gasp escapes her, hands moving to her mouth. She turns away from the arm, reeling from the shock. But why? Why is he here? And how could a mere child? Minato, she struggles to form a full sentence, the words escaping her. The younger shinobi sighs to himself. He doesn't consider himself arrogant, but he is by the majority of accounts the most dangerous man in the world right now, so Orochimaru's willingness to set foot back in the leaf, it's quite brazen, he must admit. All Yenbyu personnel are on high alert. I've already sent for Jiraiya-sensei. Now I have to tell Fugaku everything, he says, heaving a sigh. That should be fun. With Naruto, the blonde lays on his bed in his temporary personal quarters, happy to be away from any and all annoyances. The day's done a good job of reminding him why he prefers to be alone. The warmth of the covers has his eyelids heavy. They lower and rise repeatedly until his ceiling melts and shifts into a darkened passageway. His bed seemingly disappears into thin air as he finds himself ankle-deep in water. He glances behind himself, a large steel door there, before stepping forward down the darkened corridor. The amount of light seems to diminish as he continues, before it returns as he finds himself stepping into another room. A humongous pair of steel gates with wooden vines and tendrils wrapping around the bars tower over him as he approaches them. In the pitch black of the apparent cage, a large pair of crimson eyes with slitted pupils snap open, casting a fiery gaze upon the boy. A low growl that echoes throughout the room leaves the cage as Naruto meets the mysterious crimson gaze. Well, it's been a while, boy. How nice of you to come and see me, an ominously deep and thunderous voice says lowly. Naruto remains silent. He didn't come here on purpose. His subconscious seems to have pulled him here for whatever reason. Fatigue, perhaps? He can't say. I witnessed your little exchange from earlier with that shinobi. Had you called upon my power, you would have been able to destroy him. Since when have I ever needed your power? The blonde questions, a dark rumble of a chuckle leaving the cage. He'd known for a good few years now the beast had been regenerating its chakra. He isn't certain if whether the one who made the seal is aware, but if he isn't, he certainly won't be the one to let him know. You seem intent on simply keeping me suppressed here for as long as you can. What do you plan on doing when your father learns I've regained my former strength? If you're talking about the Hokage, frankly, I don't care. And as far as I'm concerned, you may as well not even be here, he says plainly. Just cross your fingers and hope someone might manage to kill me. Cost until then, this is as good as it gets, he adds. How disappointing. I was certain you weren't like the others, but as it turns out, you're just as pitiful. Risking your life to save your new little friends. And they don't even care. You're better than that, aren't you, Naruto? The beast questions in a half-mocking tone, bringing a frown to the boy's face. Before he can retort, however, the boy's head darts to the dark passageway that brought him here. He glances back at the giant creature, whose face twists into a grimace. Sand spills underneath the doorway into the room, coating the floor, moving across the room towards the foot of the bed. The sand crawls slowly up the foot of the bed. Naruto crouches on his haunches upside down on the ceiling, watching as the sand encroaches on the clone in his bed. A kunai in one hand and a release sign at the ready from the other, he watches on, glancing at the shadow cast by the pair of feet on the other side of the door, ready to detonate the clone and pounce. Suddenly, the sand pulls away from the bed at rapid pace, rushing across the floor, through the underside of the door, until it's all gone without a trace. The pair of feet on the other side are still for a few moments before the sound of receding footsteps accompanies their departure. Naruto remains upright on the ceiling, glancing at the window to see the daytime sky had turned to night since he closed his eyes. He jumps down from it, Walking over to look out at the forest underneath the light of the waxing moon, the remnants of the forest fire he'd caused earlier still rumbling in the distance. Elsewhere in the tower, temporary Hokage office. The chair flies through the air and collides with the wall, breaking into pieces as Fugaka swings a kick into it. Minato sits behind a desk while Sasuke stands a few steps away from him, having arrived with his team only minutes ago. "Sasuke, you should have told me," Minato reprimands sternly, the boy reaching a hand to touch the back of his neck. As soon as he'd arrived, he'd been taken straight to the infirmary for an examination. There was obviously no hiding the mark then. The boy glances to his father, a murderous expression of rage on his face. The nerve, the audacity, to touch his son, his daughter, his team. "Minato, he needs to die," Fugaka utters in a low, cold tone. The Hokage sighs to himself. It would appear indeed that Orochimaru's goal is the Sharingan. Interestingly, Naruto had made him aware that the man had tried to recruit him as well. The thought had made his blood run cold in his own veins. I'll get to work immediately on a way to try and get rid of that mark. For now, the best I can do is apply a seal to restrict it. Personally, I don't think it would be wise for Sasuke to continue with the exams, but I'll leave that between you and Kakashi to decide. The blonde says as Fugaka steps forward, unwrapping the black object on the desk and effortlessly slicing a piece of it away with his tanto. "Seal it, right now. And those sound ninja do not leave this village before I've gotten my hands on them," the Uchiha patriarch firmly says before turning and swiftly exiting the room, slamming the door on his way out. With Menma, his fist swings into the wall of the room he's currently occupying. That bastard. This whole time, he hasn't even been trying. He brings the fist down, a spiderweb of cracks having formed from it, his eyes shadowed by his black and red locks. Breathing heavy, his head lifts, set eyes glowing crimson red with slitted pupils. With Kakashi, "I'm telling you, Kakashi, those three are as certain to get promoted as can be," Guy boisterously declares as the two make their way through the crowded square under the night sky. "MH," Kakashi nonchalantly replies, eyes glued to his book. "Just you wait until you see them in action." Tej. Guy doesn't finish his sentence as he sees Kakashi come to a stop, turning his head. Kakashi feels a hand on his shoulder, turning to see his teacher standing before him. Minato-sensei, Kakashi greets, the elder shinobi showing a small smile. He's still amazed by how little the man has aged. "Lord Fourth," Guy greets, beaming. Excited murmurs spreading through the crowded square as more people take notice of their leader. "Guy, I'm going to need to borrow Kakashi for the rest of the night," he says before the small smile on his face is replaced by a more stern expression as he turns his head to his student. "We have a problem," Minato says before his head turns as howls echo in the distance, clearly audible even in the crowded square. Fugaku, old Uchiha clan compound, abandoned. Fugaka steps over another old stretch of police tape, emitting another shrill whistle that echoes out through the woods before him. The howls growing closer. A pair of eyes glows dimly in the shadows as growls become audible. He spots the glint of fangs in the dark as a large wolf, slightly taller than even the man himself, emerges from the darkness, more of them following. The animal comes to stand right in front of him. He produces the piece of flesh he'd taken earlier, allowing the canine in front of him a few sniffs before tossing it to the rest of the pack, who proceed to jostle and wrestle one another for it. The Uchiha male looks the creature in the eye, onyx eyes meeting golden. "Find him," he simply says. The wolf emits a growl, nodding his head in acknowledgement. He raises his head, emitting a loud howl, his peers immediately ceasing their jostling, joining in to form a symphony of howls, more emerging from deeper within the forest behind them and even from outside the village walls. The creature bolts away back into the forest, its pack following, barks ringing out. Fugaku is left standing alone. Suddenly a cacophony of screeches bursts out as the male seemingly disintegrates into a horde of bats who take flight into the night sky, following the pack of hunters just dispatched. 3 days later, Naruto's temporary quarters. Naruto stands up from his sitting position on the windowsill, headband in hand. He looks down at the object for a moment. What meaning does it hold for you? You're better than that, aren't you, Naruto? With a momentary frown, he tucks it away and makes his way toward the door. The second exam has officially ended, and now he's to find out about the next round. He hasn't seen his teammates since they dragged him to the infirmary. Battle arena. That is the true purpose of the exams, Minato concludes explaining. Anko to his right. The remaining participants, save for one, before him, and their respective Jonin senseis also present, except for one as well. Now! With that out of dash, he is interrupted as the sound of the double door entrance to the room opening. All heads turn to see the blonde from the written exam walk in. He watches his son walk in, not having seen him since they spoke in the infirmary days ago. He'd wanted the chance to ask him for more details, but the boy had been nowhere to be found as usual. A feeling of pride fills him as he watches him walk in. Sasuke lays eyes on Naruto for the first time since that day. Not a single visible injury. Naruto walks into the large room. Raised platforms connected to steel staircases on either side. A large pair of concrete hands performing the ram seal on the far side of the room, and a large electronic screen not far from it. The genin stand gathered in the center of the room, the Hokage and exam proctor before them. Their Jonin sensei are also present, though he takes note his own is missing. He ignores the looks of apprehension and few glares he receives, coming to stand next to his own teammates. Ino smiles and nods in acknowledgement, and he nods back while Satsuki doesn't make eye contact. He turns his head to the Hokage, who shows a smile before continuing to speak. Now, in light of the fact that more participants have advanced from the second exam than anticipated, there will be a preliminary round of one-on-one battles, the winners of which will advance to the third and final round of the exams. Matchups are selected at random, presenting the possibility of facing your teammates. From this moment onwards, your progression will be solely dependent on your own efforts. The blonde shinobi speaks, the eyes of many of the cadets darting. Let's not waste any more time. Convictions. Preliminary battles. Silence hangs over the room as the participants stand on the raised platforms, along with the present Jonin sensei, eyes glued to the large and darkened electronic screen. Naruto's teammates stand to his left. Official business. That's all your dad told us Ino had said to him when he'd asked why their sensei isn't present. There's no doubt in his mind Fugaka's endeavored to go hunting for Orochimaru himself, potentially and unsurprisingly against the Hokage's wishes as well. Satsuki stares ahead, Ino every so often glancing to her and their blonde teammate. Flashback, Sasuke is still as sister clutches onto him, his arms around her as well, her body shaking with sobs. "It's okay, Satsuki, I'm all right," he reassures as she continues to sob. She lifts her head to look him in the eyes. "I was so scared," she confides, the boy's eyebrows rising slightly at the uncharacteristic expression of vulnerability. "I was too," he confesses, an expression of surprise coming on Satsuki's own face now. If anything had happened to her, he doesn't know what he would have done. Your teammate, the one who saved your life, he may have saved mine too, Sasuke reveals, the kunoichi gasping lowly at the revelation. And Naruto? The male Uchiha nods his head in confirmation. He continues to gaze at her as she seemingly takes the information in. He won't mention a word about this thing on his neck to her, and if his mother finds out, it won't be from him either. Naruto, Satsuki voices internally to herself. The blonde had done exactly what he'd endeavored to do again, saved both her and Ino and her brother as well. In truth, her fear had not just been for Sasuke, if she's honest with herself. She had been terrified for him as well. The thought of something happening to both him and her brother. Flashback end. Sasuke Uchiha v. Yayoi Kato, the exam proctor calls out as the flashing screen of names freezes to reveal the first two combatants, eyes darting in the room to the two-leaf genin in question. "You're up, jerk. Make it quick," his adder jibes to an unresponsive Sasuke as he makes his way down. He never would have refused to fight, but at least he knows he isn't against Naruto. As much as it annoys him to admit, That's probably the one participant in the room he isn't ready for yet, unless absolutely necessary. Don't use your Sharingan in the next round. Kakashi's warning echoes in his mind as he makes his way down the steps. Minato watches on from his seat as Fugaka's son makes his way down to arena floor. I just hope Kakashi's sure about this. He'd applied a restrictive seal to the curse mark, and the boy had about 3 days to rest and replenish his strength. Hopefully it'll be enough to avoid any major problems. A jonin dressed in the standard attire of his rank, with short brown hair and dark-colored eyes with bags beneath them, stands between the two shinobi as they come to stand across from one another. He heaves a few hoarse coughs before speaking. I am Hei Gecko, proctor for the preliminary round of these Chunin exams, he utters before coughing once more. The two of you will be the first combatants of this round. Are there any objections? He questions. He is met with silence as the two stare one another down. Very well, then begin. He announces, jumping back as Yayoi springs towards Sasuke, swinging a kunai in his left hand. He lashes, swinging the ninja tool at the rookie who evades repeatedly. Naruto watches on at Satsuki's brother, evading the swings from the elder Leaf Ninja. He expects the Uchiha to win. Now to see how long it takes him. He ducks under another chop, swinging a fist into the older Genin's stomach, sending him back, aiming a kick to the chest that sends him onto his back. Sasuke sprinting towards him to finish the job. The older Genin suddenly jumps back up, right hand glowing a blue hue as the Uchiha's face comes within inches. Sasuke's eyes widen, flashing a crimson color as his face comes inches away from the older Genin's hand. Ugh-hai, Yayoi calls out as the boy sidesteps his hand by inches, swinging a fist into his face. How the hell did he dodge that? A kick meets his chin, sending him flying into the air. As he twists helplessly, he gasps as suddenly the Uchiha is behind him. Hey, that's... Lee exclaims as he sees the Uchiha behind his opponent in midair, guy narrowing his eyes and glancing to Kakashi, who watches on. Yayoi tries to swing an elbow, Sasuke evading this too, and swinging a barrage of fists into the older Genin's body before swinging a roundhouse kick into the boy's stomach, sending him crashing into the ground. He lands on his feet, the proctor approaching his downed opponent and checking on him. Winner, Sasuke Uchiha, he declares as the boy lays unconscious. Way to go, Sasuke, Sakura exclaims while Shikamaru rolls his eyes. Barely used his Sharingan either. What a cocky one. That Uchiha, he inwardly voices nonchalantly, as the fellow Leaf rookie makes his way back to his team. The dancing Leaf shadow, Kakashi, Guy says, turning his head to his old comrade, eyes narrowed. Don't look at me. I didn't teach him that. The masked Jonin responds plainly. He's gotten faster, he observes. You've advanced to the finals then. Hei congratulates him. Elsewhere, oh yeah, that's the stuff. Giggles, the white-haired male adjusts his binoculars once more, attempting to get a better view of the sight below him, which he indulges himself with from a tree branch. A screeching sound turns his head to the sight of a bird flying towards him, and as he catches the scroll it releases, he tries to keep hold of his binoculars, but loses his balance as a result, tumbling into the fog and water below, emitting a loud splash. Feminine screams ring out as he lifts his head above the water, a fist meeting him square in the face. Perfect. Elsewhere screeches fill the small cave, in the side of a mountain that towers over the forest below, stretching well into the horizon in every direction. The bats, emitting the cacophony, fly about circling one another as a shadowy figure materializes from seemingly nowhere between them, the sky above having darkened with rumbling clouds that every so often are bathed in white light. Crimson eyes with a tomo pattern overlook the forest as howls emerge from below. Forest of Death's central tower. Fong over Fong, Menma's best friend, calls out again as he and his partner activate their signature jutsu in tandem, twin drills twisting in the air, barreling towards him. Menma weaves through 3 hand signs, ending with Ram. Lightning style, lightning beast tracking Fong. Lightning forms in the boy's right hand as his opponents close in on him. He releases, pouncing back, as it shapes into the form of a hound, staying connected to his hand in the form of a cord of the lightning nature chakra. One of the two evades the hound while the other makes direct contact, being struck by it, emitting a howl of pain. Akamaru, Kiba yells, stopping in his tracks, seeing his partner fall to the ground in a twitching unconscious heap. His lapse in concentration, however, buys his friend more time as he swings the hound of lightning to the right. Kiba tries to evade but is unsuccessful as the current meets his body as well, earning a yell of pain as it stuns his body before releasing it as it dissipates, allowing him to fall to the ground unconscious as well. Menma is already running towards the Inuzuka as his body hits the ground, sliding onto his knees to examine him while the proctor approaches. "Sorry, old pal. Looks like this one's mine," he chuckles as medical ninja rush over, following. Winter cough, Menma Uzumaki Namikaze, Hade announces before coughing once again, Menma's sisters and mother cheering from above. Minato smiles proudly as he watches his son follow behind the medical ninja as they carry Kiba and Akamaru to the infirmary. "Well done, Menma. That's Sasuke Uchiha, Shikamaru Nara, Shino Aburame Niji Hyuga, Temari as well as Kankuro of the Desert, and now Menma Uzumaki Namikaze who have advanced. Not a bad showing at all for the Leaf. Let the next contest be decided," Hade orders, like clockwork, the screen flashing the remaining names. The screen freezes. Hizaru Hajiwara v. Kabuto Yakushi. A small chuckle escapes Hizaru, a smirk on his face as he looks across to the other Leaf shinobi, his teammates glancing at his reaction as he places a hand on the railing in front of him. "Proctor, I forfeit," Kabuto shouts while maintaining eye contact with his would-be opponent, earning gasps from a few of those present, Hizaru's smirk still in place. "Wait, what? You're quitting just like that? Why?" Ino questions confused. "I've seen enough to know the competition here is pretty stiff. On top of that, I've already seen one of my teammates fall to a member of his squad. I'll be frank, I just don't feel confident going up against him," Kabuto states frankly, Sasuke frowning at the reasoning. This is the same guy who admitted to failing the exam several times, and he's quitting just like that? Just what is up here exactly? "Very well then. The winner by forfeit is Hizaru Hajiwara," Hate declares, raising his hand and gesturing to the boy who scoffs lightly. "Well, that's just boring," he snorts. He looks to his side to see the jerk with an expression of suspicion on his face, and Kaori's still looking dejected. She lost to the shadow-wielding Nara and not because she was weaker either. The screen begins to flash names again, before freezing. Choji Akimichi v. Satsuki Uchiha. "Oh no," Shikamaru groans internally as he turns his head to see his old friend gulp nervously. Sakura has already been eliminated, and had lost quite badly at that, to the guy with the makeup on. Granted, he'd somewhat expected that, but one of the Uchiha twins? Not good. "You've got this, Choji," Asuma encourages with a slap on the back as the Akimichi makes his way down. "It's all yours," Satsuki, Ino says with a smile as Satsuki takes a look at both her teammates this time, giving them a nod before leaping down to the arena floor. "Do you think Choji can win this one?" Kurenai asks his teacher. Before he can respond, however, Kakashi does so for him. It's a terrible mismatch, frankly. If Satsuki is anything like Sasuke, and she happens to be pretty similar to my knowledge, then Choji doesn't stand a chance, the masked Jonin interjects, earning a frown from the Sarutobi. "Why don't we watch the fight and let them decide?" he retorts with the slightest bit of venom to his tone. The two Leaf rookies stand across from one another. "Hate not far from either begin," he orders. Choji outstretches his right arm as Satsuki dashes toward him, eyes turning crimson, and revealing two tomo that circle and come to a stop on either end of the pupil. Her Sharingan's matured to two tomo as well. "Yep, this fight is already square," Kakashi observes. Even if Choji can match the Uchiha Kunoichi's speed, which he can't, her reaction time is another matter altogether. Partial expansion jutsu. The Akimichi calls out as his hand, having expanded to be exponentially larger than his own body, swings down to smack the Uchiha against the ground, only for her to easily evade. A flying kick to the chest sends him sailing back, the boy quickly using his hand to regain his balance by digging it into the earth. She's fast. He takes another swing, followed by two more, Satsuki effortlessly avoiding all three, while weaving through a set of Jan signs. Fire style. Phoenix flower jutsu, she exclaims, launching several fist-sized projectiles of flame at the Akimichi, who holds his hand up to block them, grunting at the pain of the burns on the palm of his hand. He lowers his hand to see more projectiles incoming, these being made of steel, however. He swats the shuriken away easily but grunts as he suddenly feels himself being rooted to spot, unable to maneuver freely. Only now does he spot the glint of ninja wire all over his arm, the girl pulling. "You're gonna tug-of-war with me?" "Big mistake," he shouts with a smile. With one tremendous pull, he sends the Uchiha flying through the air with a pull of his giant hand as his own body exponentiates in size, ballooning as he seemingly cannonballs toward her. Human boulder jutsu. Satsuki weaves the last hand sign of her signature technique, her genjutsu having worked perfectly. Fire style. Fireball jutsu, she says, sending a similarly large if not larger cannonball of fire, careening towards the incoming genin. The two collide, a blood-curdling yell, coming from the boy as he goes flying back, parts of his clothing alight. As he hits the ground in a still heap, medical shinobi sprint over, weaving hand signs, quickly dousing the flames with C-rank water jutsu and examining the boy. Hate comes to stand over him, glancing over for a few seconds before gesturing to the Uchiha. "Winner Satsuki Uchiha," he declares. Shikamaru sighs, pinching the bridge of his nose. He went flying straight into that one. As soon as Choji had made eye contact with the Uchiha, he'd already made a big mistake. He steps off to make his way down to the arena floor to follow his friend to the infirmary. Her genjutsu is impressive. Kurenai notes, trying not to smile and be a little more sympathetic towards a Suma who has a frown on his face. "I could have told you that was going to happen." "Oh, wait." Kakashi says jokingly, the Saratobi gritting his teeth in frustration and walking off in a huff, following after Shikamaru to check on Choji. All of his students have already fought anyway, so there isn't much else to see. The screen flashes the remaining 6 names once again before freezing on 2. Mito Uzumaki Namikaze v. Yayoi Uzumaki Namikaze. The proctor calls, gasps ringing across the room. The two combatants, who happen to be standing side by side, turn their heads to one another, faces etched in disbelief. Naruto watches on nonchalantly. He doesn't like how this is unfolding. He couldn't care less about the two who are about to fight, but the way this is going, either he or Ino could end up against the redhead Sand Shinobi. Frankly, he'd much rather it be him if it comes to it. Gaara watches from the platform on the other side of the room with a small smile on his face, chills running down Temari's spine when she sees it. With just a bit more luck, he'll get exactly who he wants. "Give every drop of yourself down there." "I won't accept any less," Mito says, a smirk forming on her face. The uncertainty on her sister's face shifts to a determined smile as she responds. "The same goes for you, Tomato Head," she gripes with the old nickname before the two leap down to the arena floor to stand across from one another. "Your sisters got drawn together, Naruto. Who do you think's gonna win?" Ino asks, turning her head to the blonde who watches on, showing no emotional investment whatsoever. "It doesn't matter," he responds, resisting the urge to correct her wording. "That's the least of my concerns right now," he speaks, eyes narrowed, Ino frowning in thought at his response. "Let the contest begin." Hate coughs, signaling. A cloud of smoke bursts from Mito's hands, revealing a katana as Yayoi sprints toward her with a kunai in hand. Sparks fly as a flurry of blows is exchanged, the two shifting and moving across the arena floor in a dance of Kenjutsu combat. Minato watches on from above intently. "Infirmary, you got lucky. Chump." Kiba snorts with derision at his friend, Akamaru now in his lap. "Next time you won't be. I'm telling ya," he gripes with his partner barking in agreement, his red and dark-haired comrade smiling at him. "I'm looking forward to it," he replies. "Lucky you, Menma. You get to fight in the final round," a heavily bandaged Choji laying in the bed next to Kiba's moans, his sensei and teammates with him. "Don't get me started, Choji. This guy's got a big enough head already. Can you imagine how unbearable he'll be if he makes Chunin? Kiba moans as Menma's smirk grows. So, who do you want to fight anyway? Kiba asks, Menma's face shifting grin. You know exactly who I want. He better win his fight too, Menma replies, cracking his knuckles. I'll have to ask you to give those two some time to rest now, a voice says. Heads turn to see Shizen standing in the doorway. Sure thing, Doc. Come on, kids. We'll see these two later, Asuma orders, Shikamaru and Sakura making their way towards the door, Menma exchanging a fist bump with Kiba before standing and following alongside Asuma. Battle arena, water style, water bullet jutsu. The two call out simultaneously, projectiles colliding and canceling one another out as the two sprint towards each other. Mito swinging her katana at her opponent who blocks it with a kunai, the two attempting to push and overpower one another. Yayoi takes advantage of the moment, swinging the duel to the side, releasing her kunai, Mito losing grip of her katana, the weapon flying to the side. She attempts to give chase only for her opponent to grab her by the ponytail, tossing her back, following up with an uppercut and stomach shot that sends her into the ground. As she tries to deal the finishing blow from above, however, she reels back in pain, clutching her chest as her opponent swings a set of claws across her chest. She looks down at the marks on her chest to see for slashes running across it, looking back up to see her sister's eyes now crimson red with slits for pupils. She knows she can't match my physical strength in base, so she's taken it up a notch. Well, two can play that game. Yayoi's own eye color shifts, a set of claws emerging as the two sprint towards each other, exchanging more blows as a red aura begins to emerge with each blow, the onlookers observing, some anxiously. Is that chakra? Visible to the naked eye. Is it not supposed to be blue? Lee questions, Niji narrowing his eyes. Their chakra. Ino marvels, the only thing I've ever felt that could compare to this is... Glancing to the blonde male by her side. Mito, is this how strong you really are? Satsuki ponders, clenching her fists. So that's the Nine Tails chakra, huh? Gonna want to get a good close look at this, Izadaru says to himself. With Menma's eyes are wide as he walks back into the battle arena alongside Asuma-sensei to see his sisters engaged in a brutal taijutsu exchange, air visibly shifting. Cracks forming in parts of the floor as red-colored chakra boils to the surface. Mito, Yayoi, you got drawn against each other? Damn it, he curses. He'd known it was possible for one of them to get drawn against the other, but didn't think or hope it would actually happen. With Mito and Mito backflips, as Yayoi swings a fist into the spot, she stood on that leaves a crater-shaped spider web of cracks. She swings again, leaving another one, Mito now on the back foot. The Nine Tails chakra's helping me move faster, but it's multiplying that strength of hers too. And she won't let me get to my sword either, Mito notes glancing to the blade on the far side of the room. She smirks, not being able to help being proud of her sister. Turning this into a fist fight benefits her. I only have one chance of winning this. She bolts towards the sword, Yayoi deducting her intentions quickly. No, you don't, she yells, swinging another almighty fist that Mito jumps back from. Right hand out. Decoy successful, a single chain of glowing golden color springs from the kunoichi's palm to wrap around Yayoi, pinning her arms against her sides, eyes wide in shock. No way. Impossible. This is... With Menma, that's Mom's technique. Mito! Menma exclaims in disbelief himself. Lady Kushina's adamant sealing chains. Well, what did you know? I never would have guessed one of you had them, Asuma adds. What a fight this. Some genin these are. With Kakashi, Lady Kushina. Mito inherited your Kekiai Genkai. Kakashi speaks, turning his head to the older jonin. I'd suspected it might be the case for a while, but my suspicions were only confirmed much more recently. Her Uzumaki blood runs strong. Kushina responds with a small smile that only holds for a second before the firm look of concentration on the fight is back in place. With Mito and Yayoi, your Nine Tails chakra is useless against these restraints. Forfeit now, Yayoi Mito commands. You'll catch up to Mito in no time. You'll be as good as your sister someday. You'll be better someday, Yayoi. I know it. Yayoi struggles against the chain wrapped around from her upper arms down to her wrists, infusing more of the red chakra. Cracks forming in the ground beneath her as she releases an almighty yell that reverberates against the walls, shaking them, desperately trying to break the restraints, to no avail. Don't insult me. Finish the fight like a real kunoichi. Yayoi fires back. Mito takes a glance at the proctor, who says nothing before looking back at her opponent and taking a deep breath before pulling on the chain, sending her sister flying towards her, fist cocked back. She swings it forward, making contact square in the face, sending the blonde genin onto her back in an incapacitated heap. The chain releases as it winds around Yayoi's body to retract back in Mito's hand, who falls onto one knee above her sister. That was intense. Winner. Mito Uzumaki Namikaze, Hate declares as Mito looks up to see her mother standing over her with her brother running towards them from the other end of the room, medical ninja following. Look at you learning fast, she teases with a smile while bending over to tend to an unconscious Yayoi. Lady Kushina, please allow us, one medical ninja says. Kushina complying but following closely behind as they stretcher her off, Menma helping along Mito as they follow. Minato remains in his seat, despite wanting to follow, having to be present for the remaining two battles. Asterisk cough asterisk, there are 4 combatants remaining, meaning the next fight will automatically decide the one that follows, Hate announces as the screen flashes between the remaining 4 names. Gaara of the Desert Rock, Lee Ino Yamanaka Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. Lee watches on intently, Naruto nonchalantly. Gaara retains a coldly blank demeanor while Ino looks on nervously. The screen continues to flash and then freezes. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze v Rock Lee. Hei calls out, "Shit." Naruto curses, not for his opponent but his teammate. This is bad. He'll have to talk to her immediately after his fight. We need to talk after I'm done with this, he says, turning his head to her, earning a quizzical look from her before she nods. Good luck, she assures, smiling. Satsuki giving him a nod as well. Both of them would be shocked if any of the genin in this room could beat Naruto. Fortune may exist after all. Lee shouts, fire burning in his eyes, precisely the battle I've been begging and waiting for, he shouts. Let's rock and roll. The time has finally come for the young youthful hurricane of the leaf to showcase himself. Guy exclaims, chest out as Lee begins stretching and striking taijutsu stances. Alrighty, Lee, your moment has come. Save the very best for second last is how the saying goes after all, he exclaims, his jonin peers sweat dropping. He places his arm around his student's neck. Now, Lee, that's the son of the Hokage. From what I've heard, he isn't as gifted as his siblings, but he is still a child of the fourth himself, so don't dare underestimate him. Go out there and show them all why you're going to be a Chunin, he exclaims. Yes, Guy-sensei, I will not fail you, he exclaims with as much fervor, saluting his teacher, a starry-eyed look of admiration written in set eyes. I know you won't, my boy. Guy responds, tears leaving his eyes, as they do Lee's, the two clutching onto each other, all present watching sweat dropping at the scene, including Naruto, who is watching from below, having already jumped off the platform. Lee Niji says, sternly earning the attention of both, who turn their heads to him. I already told you, didn't I? The Hyuga speaks, eyes glued to the blonde in black below. He's only a rookie genin by name. He's far more dangerous than that. Don't you dare underestimate him. Even for a second, he orders, earning an expression of intrigue from Guy, while Tenten looks on nervously. Don't worry, Niji. I have no intention of doing so, he responds, flashing a big smile and holding a thumb up. I will give it my all, so that you and I can meet in the finals like we are supposed to, he declares, earning no response from the Hyuga. Naruto watches on as his opponent finally jumps down from the opposite platform to stand across from him. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, the pleasure is all mine. I've been hoping for this since I first saw you. The boy in green acknowledges with passion burning in his eyes, Naruto nonchalantly staring back. With Team 7, except Yayoi, Kushina, Menma, and Mito return to the room just in time to see Lee standing across from Naruto waiting for the fight to commence. Go Naruto! You've got this, sweetie. Kushina cheers on an unresponsive Naruto while Menma frowns and Mito watches on intently, eager to see her brother finally in action. Minato sits in anticipation. Finally, he'll get to see Naruto fight in person. Let's see what you've been telling me about Fugaku. Let the battle begin. Hate orders. Lee sprints towards Naruto, swinging a roundhouse kick that he blocks before gripping him by the ankle and tossing him away like a rag doll. The boy skids and rolls, springing back to his feet and charging again. He swings a flurry of fists and kicks that Naruto parries away before swinging a fist of his own into the boy's stomach that catches him off guard, his eyes wide at the strength, and a right hand to the side of the face that sends him stumbling back. With Sasuke watches, through clenched teeth and balled fists, as Naruto effortlessly swats away the same opponent who had ragdolled him earlier. This guy is on a different level entirely. Kaori watches on with intrigue, Hizaru alongside her doing the same. Well, what did you know? I may have found somebody interesting. With Naruto and Lee, your taijutsu is impressive. I've never seen that style before, Lee notes. Of course not. It isn't a leaf like yours. I would highly recommend taking those weights of yours off, or at the very least using some ninjutsu, Naruto says, plainly earning a gasp from the boy. I can't be certain of how long it'll be before I start getting bored. How did Y dash, he stutters. Your movements are clearly too labored for someone of your taijutsu proficiency. It looks abnormal, Naruto explains. Lee grunts. The boy in green backwards cartwheeling several times before taking a giant leap to stand atop the two hands that form the ram seal at the far end of the room. Lee! His teacher calls to him, earning the boy's attention. It's okay. Take him off, the Jonin commands with a thumb up. But Guy-sensei, you said only to take them off if the lives of important people were in danger. It's all right. I'll allow it. Now do it, Guy commands with a smile. The boy complies, tucking his hands beneath his orange leg warmers and pulling an identical set of weights from beneath them, holding them out on either side of himself. He releases his grip, allowing them to fall from the height of the statue to the floor below. How is dropping a couple of pounds supposed to help him match in dash? Satsuki's train of thought is brought to a grinding halt as the weights hit the ground, shooting twin plumes of debris that tower to the ceiling of the room as they impact the ground to form crater-sized spider web cracks, gas echoing throughout the room. Naruto's eyebrows rise slightly at the display, a small smirk forming on his face as excitement dances in his eyes. Now we're talking. The genin clad in green springs from atop the ram seal locked hands, bolting back down to the ground. He bolts back and forth around his opponent, almost a blur to the naked eye, onlookers watching in disbelief at the display of speed. This is how fast he really is. Insane, Sasuke marvels. Lee swings a fist from behind the blonde, intent on launching him forwards, only for him to spin around, catching it in his right hand. A collective gasp fills the room. I am posable, Lee utters in disbelief. A genin who can react to him with his weights off. W what? How? Guy marvels. I said it, Niji states in a matter-of-fact tone. Lee swings another fist that Naruto parries as the two begin a fierce exchange. Naruto swinging a punch that Lee himself parries before swinging a kick Naruto sidesteps. The two move about the room, at moments looking like blurs, canceling each other's strikes out, one after the other. How is he even with Lee's taijutsu? That doesn't make any sense. Tenten exclaims, is he the same? She questions. No, Satsuki answers, Naruto's holding back. By quite a bit. He hasn't used any of his ninjutsu at all so far. Why? She questions, turning ahead. Because Naruto grabs the boy's arm and swings a right and left fist into his face. A kick to face sends him stumbling back, only for him to launch himself forward with a vicious headbutt that sends the boy in green onto his back. He's enjoying himself, Inoue? Tenten questions in confusion. Combat of any kind, even Mortal Kombat. Naruto considers it a sport. Satsuki responds the other genin, exchanging looks of shock, Kakashi's lone eye narrowing. Lee sits up to see the blonde standing, sporting a good few bruises like himself, a smirk in place with blood leaking from his mouth. Don't get me wrong, this is fun, but I meant what I said. If you don't start using your ninjutsu, you will lose, he says in a matter-of-fact tone. Minato sits back, watching on in shock. This is what his son has been hiding for so long. Why? How? Naruto's taijutsu is levels above that of even his siblings, and he's not used any ninjutsu yet. Well, Naruto questions as the boy in green rises to his feet. He begins to unwrap the tape on one of his hands. Then all of a sudden he springs forward, Naruto at the ready only for the opponent to begin sprinting in circles around him. Just what are you planning? Naruto questions to himself. Suddenly he finds himself flying into the air as a kick to the chin launches him. His speed exponented it all of a sudden. What was that? He muses, shocked. A fist comes, followed by another. A flurry of blows meeting Naruto's body, sending him further into the air. The boy in green grabs him, and the combat tape hanging from his arm finds itself around Naruto's body, restraining him as his opponent flips him upside down, the two twisting and turning in the air, barreling towards the ground. Primary Lotus, he yells. As they approach the ground, however, Naruto infuses wind-style chakra, releasing it in a burst from his body, shredding the combat tape and sending his opponent flying, with a yell as the wind-style chakra inflicts several cuts. The force of the wind cushions Naruto's landing, while Lee hits the ground with an unceremonious thud. The Lotus failed. What was that? Guy exclaims in disbelief. A wind-style change in chakra nature, coupled with a change in chakra form like that. I haven't seen that kind of control before. This kid, Kakashi notes watching on. That was a wind-style change in chakra nature. Temari examines. He's a wind-style user? Baki narrows his eyes in intrigue. He knows how rare that affinity is, even in his own land. So he's a wind-style user, huh? Let's see what else he can do. Lee groans, clutching at his arms, covered in cuts along with his torso. He rolls onto his stomach, getting onto his knees, the pain of the lotus weighing on his body as well. My primary lotus failed. How? Well, Naruto speaks, weaving through hand signs. I did warn you, he says as the boy drags himself back on his feet. Wind style. Wind or barrage, he yells, firing several fist-sized projectiles of wind at the boy, colliding with his body, earning several yells of pain as he is sent flying again. Unfortunately, you can't hope to beat someone like Naruto with just taijutsu. Satsuki notes, Guy simply smirking to himself. And to think, Sasuke says to himself, thinking back to the scene from the forest days ago, that he's still holding back. Lee groans in pain, his clothes now covered in large orb-shaped holes from which he is bleeding, as he attempts once again to drag himself to his feet, his body screaming against him. Naruto takes a few steps forward, watching on. His respect for this guy is growing by the minute. I think I understand now, he says as the boy lifts his head on his knees. You can't use ninjutsu or jinjutsu at all, can you? He surmises as he slowly lifts himself off of his knees. Naruto watches as he rises to stare him down defiantly. Well, I've got to say, you deserve your respect, he says, earning a low gasp and wide eyes from the boy. You're a real shinobi, but if what I've gathered really is the case, then unfortunately you're definitely not winning this, he says with finality, weaving through the same set of hand signs from before. Wind style. Wind or barrage, he exclaims again, releasing a flurry of projectiles that barrel towards his opponent. Just as they close in, however, the older genin once again moves at blurred motion to dodge them all, the projectiles colliding with the far wall, leaving small craters in them. Naruto's eyebrows rise. He can still move at that speed. The older genin comes to a stop a few feet closer to the blonde. I thank you for your acknowledgement, Lee responds, but I will not lose, he declares, lowering his head, arms crossed in an X gesture. To hone your taijutsu to this level and still be able to wield ninjutsu, elemental ninjutsu at that, you are truly a genius, Naruto. And that dash, Lee speaks, as the air about him begins to visibly shift. It's precisely why we are not the same. He roars as an explosion of chakra leaves his body, visible around his body. Third gate. Gate of life open, he roars, his chakra visibly swirling around him as a green aura glows as well. Naruto watching on with intrigue as debris rises around the boy. So there's more, huh? He quizzes. Fourth gate. Gate of pain open. More debris rises. Cracks forming in the ground as the boy's skin begins to turn a red hue, veins bulging against his skin as if threatening to burst. The arena floor is split, debris rising as the boy suddenly disappears and Naruto finds himself flying into the air, a kick to chin launching him. The force generated by the older genin speed is sufficient enough to generate wind and debris that momentarily blinds all in the room, except those deploying visual jutsu. Naruto finds himself flying back down to the ground, struck by an almighty fist, followed by another and another as the boy moves about him as a blur, launching him back and forth with fist and kick after fist and kick. I've no time to weave even a single sign. How is he moving this fast? I should have pounced on him when I had the chance, Naruto says to himself, smirking as he is knocked back and forth. Naruto! Satsuki, Ino, Kushina, and Mito all cry in unison. Minato looks on in clear concern and fear as well. Every fiber of his being screaming at him to jump in and stop the fight, but knowing Naruto could hate his guts for it. He may very well be a skilled ninjutsu user, but that doesn't matter against someone he can't weave signs against, Guy says smiling. Menma watches on in awe and disbelief. Fists clenched. This is insane. No way is he even near this level yet. Naruto's body impacts with the ground, a spiderweb-shaped crater of cracks forming from the collision as he stares up to see his opponent descending upon him, a more concentrated blue aura beginning to surround him. Now to end it, fifth gate. Gate of closing open, he exclaims, cocking a last fist back, seeing the smirk on Naruto's face. Inhale asterisk, exhale asterisk. I said I wouldn't do this, but I guess I lied. Lee swings his fist down on the boy, an explosion ringing throughout the room, dust and debris filling every corner now, coughs audible. Silence hangs as the debris continues to rise and spread, a few moments passing before it begins to dissipate. It's over. It's gotta be, Shikamaru says. From the corners of the arena, the dust begins to settle. Niji emits a shocked gasp, Kakashi following suit not long after. 3 silhouettes, one clearly belonging to the proctor, become visible, and soon the dust lifts to reveal the 2 male genin in the center of the room, the floor beneath them decimated. Lee stands with his fist outstretched in Naruto's hand, who stands holding it with a white aura glowing about him. Pieces of debris floating around himself now. His once cerulean blue eyes are now a blinding white, the whites and pupils replaced completely by it. And no, that's not posable. Guy breathes in disbelief. The hidden Lotus F failed. Kakashi looks in on similar shock, headband still raised and both eyes wide. There's no way. This chakra. I've never felt anything like it. Fugaka-sensei, this is what you spoke about. This child is... Minato's gazes at the scene in disbelief as well. He reacted to the hidden lotus. Naruto, just what is that chakra? Kushina practically trembles as she watches the scene. When that boy had opened the 5th gate, she needed no confirmation it was over. She had just been waiting for the dust to settle to jump in. This chakra, what is this? She questions to herself as Mito shakes beside her as well, her daughter having inherited her sensory as well. Menma's mouth hangs open as he looks on, but at the speed Lee was moving at that is impossible. No! Naruto, he inwardly utters, clutching his fists, so hard his knuckles turn white. This is what you're truly capable of. There it is. That ominous chakra that's suppressed all the time. This is what it feels like when allowed to surface. Shino notes to himself as his insects fly around him. He's not human, Shikamaru whispers hoarsely. Lee's body screams at him, muscles torn, as his opponent stands before him, bloodied and bruised, some of his injuries and wounds visibly healing already. It can't be. No one can defend against the Hidden Lotus. How? You fought incredibly, but it's like I said. You are never going to beat me with only taijutsu, he answers in an ominously deep voice. With the 9 tails. He defended himself against 5 of the 8 inner gates. And with his own chakra too. Minato Kushina. You've created quite the monster. And his full potential is far from realized, the beast utters, as the flow of the boy's unsurpassed chakra reacts to the seal, wooden tendrils wrapping around him from behind the bars, as he emits a low chuckle that turns into full-on roaring laughter, even as he feels himself restrained further. With Naruto's left eye returns to its original color, right still glowing as he wrestles to keep control of himself. Lee's knees buckle as the aura around him finally dissipates, his opponent tossing him away. He skids and rolls before coming to a stop, clearly desperately still trying to muster the strength to get himself back up. It's time to end this. The godly mountain wind? No. That would kill anyone with a direct hit, and he's in no shape to try and dodge. The wind or barrage again it is then, Naruto says to himself, weaving through the same signs as the boy drags himself to his knees. He brings his head back as the genin slowly turns himself, throwing it forward and releasing the projectiles once more. Lee releases one cry after another as the compressed bullets of wind chakra strike him, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, sending him through the air again, onto the concrete with an unceremonious thud. Naruto's right eye returns to its original color as Lee hits the ground, the white aura around him dissipating as the other boy's sensei finally jumps down onto the arena floor, Lee still and unmoving. He runs over to the boy, examining him. It's over. It's done. Lee dash. He doesn't continue as the boy starts moving again, Naruto this time showing genuine shock. As for the umpteenth time, the boy in green drags himself to his feet, bloodied and bruised, holes all over his clothing, the top half hanging on by a few strings, in tatters. Guy begins to shake, tears leaving his eyes as he sees the boy's face. Naruto emitting a low gasp as he sees it too. He's not even conscious. His willpower is the only thing holding him up. What have I done? Forgive me, Lee. It's okay. You've already proven yourself. You did it, he affirms, wrapping his arms around the boy. This match is over and the winner is Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, Hate declares. The words almost don't register to Naruto as he watches on at the scene. You already did it, Naruto. You're already the greatest. Because you're my student, son, Akasada assures, ruffling the blonde's head. Naruto's blonde locks shadow his eyes as medical ninja rush over to stretcher the boy away. He turns and begins to walk away, back to his team only to see them running towards him. Naruto, they shout in unison, embracing him. I'm fine, he assures as they examine him. I knew you couldn't lose. Ino exclaims, Satsuki nodding in agreement. The time has come for the final preliminary battle to take place. The proctor interjects. Ino clenches a fist and takes a look up at the redhead sand ninja, who disappears in a cloud of sand and reappears on the arena floor. Ino, Naruto says, earning her attention. Ignoring the irritating medics trying to get his attention, you have to forfeit what? She questions in shock. I said you have to forfeit the fight right now. You're not going to beat him, he says, the Yamanaka's head lowering. You don't believe in me, huh? No. That's not it, he responds. I told Satsuki the same thing before the first exam. That guy is dangerous. He's not just a ninja. You're not going to beat him. Your life will be in danger, he warns firmly. Maybe it will. But I won't be the only one out of the 3 of us who quit. It's not happening. It's about time I showed you two Ino. He tries to sternly interject only to be cut off himself. Sir, please allow us to treat one of the medical ninja interrupts with a hand on the shoulder only for Naruto to turn, eyes flashing blinding white, the male lifting his hand shivering. Don't touch me again, he warns in a low and venomously deep tone before turning back. Listen to me for once, damn it. You're not just fighting him. Don't do this. Naruto shouts, visibly becoming angry in a rare sight. I've already made my decision, she says firmly. Naruto turns his head to Satsuki, who looks on, not knowing at all what to say. Naruto swiftly turns and marches his way toward the exit, medical ninja following. He'll be damned if he sticks around to watch this. Elsewhere, the horde of bats converge to form a silhouette, once again, that shapes itself into a man. Fugaka steps forward, the pack standing in a semicircle at what appears to be the entrance to a cave. He steps into the semicircle, turning his head to the Alpha, who gives him a nod. He seemingly disintegrates into the horde again, who fly into the cave, the pack following. The masked ninja bows on one knee before the large glass cylinder of green liquid. Wires connected to it from above and below, a myriad of buttons and levers not far from the cylinder. Inside it, a pale man with long black hair, apparently missing a right arm with a huge wound in his side floats. A visor rests over his face, connected to an oxygen tank. "Are you certain?" he questions. "Yes, my lord." The intruder is dressed in standard Leaf Jonin attire, with the Uchiha clan crest on his back. He clearly came with no intention of disguising himself, the masked ninja responds. The man emits a dark chuckle at the words. Well, well, good old, wicked Fugaku, I expected you to come for me, but not this soon. Not wasting any time, huh? Send him a welcoming party. Make sure his body gets to me in good condition. He orders. Yes, Lord Orochimaru, the shinobi bows for a final time before standing and leaving. He knows they won't stop him, not a chance. With Ino v. Gaara, Ino stands across from her opponent, awaiting the proctor commencement. Let the final battle of the preliminary rounds begin. Hei orders. She sprints toward her opponent, who stands still, arms crossed, serving to only enrage her. She swings a fist at his face only for something to block her strike. Sand, she observes as it spills from the gourd on his back. She swings more punches and kicks, none making contact. Suddenly a tendril wraps around her wrist, swinging her into the air and rag-dolling her away. She skids and rolls across the ground, jumping to her feet, while producing kunai wriggled with explosives. She toses them all simultaneously, the projectiles embedding themselves in the sand before shaking the room as they detonate. She stands back awaiting the dust to settle, and as it does, it lifts to reveal the sand shield still intact, its owner standing still unscathed. So it's that durable. She runs a few steps closer before weaving through a set of hand signs. Water style, water bullet jutsu, she launches the projectiles, sending them crashing into the shield. Her opponent still hasn't moved. What a shame. You're just hopeless, aren't you? They should have given me the other 1-inch Gaara, says nonchalantly, arms still crossed. Ino grits her teeth at the dig. She produces a scroll, unwrapping it, a cloud of smoke bursting as large amounts of water spill from the scroll, covering the floor. Water style, wild water wave, she calls as the water rises and collides with the sand shield. She repeats the technique 2 times more. What is she doing? Temari laughs to herself. That's not going to work. Ino, having used the jutsu about 5 times now, is breathing heavily, but she resists the urge to smirk as she sees the sand shield now a brown color. She sprints forward, weaving through hand signs before a cloud of smoke produces a Fuma shuriken. She toses it towards the opponent, the shield blocking it and forcing it aside again as she swings a punch of her own. Enough of this nonsense, Gaara says with finality as the sand grabs the girl and smacks her against the water-submerged ground with a thud only for her to explode into water. A burst of smoke comes from the shuriken, the blonde emerging from it and smacking both hands down onto the ground before her. Too bad you didn't get to see this one yourself, Agaka-sensei, her style. Stone javelin, she shouts. A spear of rock explodes out the ground at odd angles, shooting towards a red head. The sand rises up to block, but the moisture that has robbed it of its compactness allows the stone projectile to burst through, penetrating the opponent's shoulder as he turns. Ino watches as the boy's top turns red, pieces of sand seemingly crumbling from the point of entry. Is that some kind of armor? She sees the look of horror on his face before he emits a blood-curdling scream. With Naruto stands in front of a conscious and heavily bandaged Lee with Guy, Niji, and Tenten on the other side of the bed. He stares at him, clearly still having a hard time processing the outcome of their battle. Tears are visible in the boy's eyes. I cannot claim to be happy with the outcome of our battle, but I am happy to have had the chance to face you. You are a truly splendid shinobi, a genius. I would love the opportunity to face you again, Lee says, extending his hand. Naruto looks at the hand for a moment before accepting and shaking to Lee's surprise. Sure, why not? I don't know many people who can get me sweating the way you did, Naruto responds, Lee smiling at him while Guy chuckles a bit. See you around then, Naruto says plainly, not sparing other three a glance as he attempts to leave the room. Wait, Naruto, he calls, bringing the boy to a standstill. I have a question. He turns his head, waiting to hear what the older genin has to say. What is that makes you strong? By that I mean, what is it that drives you to fight? To become stronger? Why do you do it? Silence hangs over the room for a moment. I fight to become stronger because it's the only sense of self I have left. Everything and everyone I ever knew forsook me. Strength is the only identity I have, he responds. Earning surprised looks from Lee and Tenten while Niji and Guy narrow their eyes in thought. But is that truly ever enough? I was taught one can only truly become strong when he fights for those important to him. So is that enough? It's enough for me, he responds plainly. Back in the forest, Sasuke told us how you fought a perilous enemy to protect Satsuki with your life. So is it really enough? Lee questions further, Naruto's eyebrows rising slightly as he's left speechless for a few moments. I don't know, he concedes. Ino, she's still down there against that. See you around, he says, marching out of the room without another word. Unbeknownst to all in the room, Yayoi lays awake a few beds away, having overheard the entire conversation, tears stinging her eyes from Naruto's words. Big brother, elsewhere cries out ring put as the dozens of shinobi flail desperately and helplessly, hordes of bats filling the passageways, assaulting their ears with the cacophony of screeches. Fugaku walks through the passageways, his companions following him as the sound ninjas stumble about screaming, his genjutsu rendering them helpless as he walks right past them as though invisible. With Gaara, Ino yells in pain as a tendril of sand smacks her into the ground repeatedly, while the opponent still screams, the javelin still jutting through his shoulder. She thought his sand, now wet, could be evaded, only to find he could turn his gourd into the substance as well. Up slam, up slam, up slam. She lays against the ground, now bleeding heavily as the boy's screams still ring out. Gaara clutches at the object embedded in his shoulder as some of the sand that composed his gourd crushes it, though a sizable portion remains in him. He clutches at his head as one of his eyes flashes a golden color. Damn it! She made him angry. This is bad. Kankuro fearfully speaks, Tenten bearing a similar expression, Baki now also visibly concerned. The sand genin roars as the tendrils of sand creep onto Ino's left leg and arm. He extends his right arm, hand open before balling it in a swift motion. Sand coffin. A blood-curdling scream fills the room with horror as Ino's right arm and leg are crushed. Satsuki swings a fist against the metal railing in front of her, Sharingan eyes tearing up as she watches on. The sand withdraws to reveal the Yamanaka's mangled leg and arm. Call it off for fuck's sake. Shikamaru curses furiously. Gaara continues to clutch at his head as the voice commands him. No! More blood! Yes, mother, he grumbles as the sand moves to submerge Ino completely. I've seen that before, Shino says to himself, thinking back to what his insects showed him in the forest. Satsuki steps over the railing to jump down to the arena floor, having seen enough. Before she hits the ground, however, the sand is blown away. As her feet hit the ground, Naruto stands in front of Ino, eyes flashing white for a moment as he walks forward to stand a few meters closer to the sand genin. Satsuki tends to their teammate meanwhile. B but WY? She failed, he questions with confusion. Naruto simply spits a mouthful of blood, left over from his fight, on the ground, the sight sending tingles down Gaara's spine, the voice screaming at him, but some unknown force pinning and rooting him to his spot. Just say the word. I'll put you out of your misery in front of all these people, Naruto states, eyes cold as ice. Gaara looks on at him, confusion mixed with fear in his expression before he begins to chuckle. You can fool the ones behind you. You can fool all these people. But there's no fooling me. I see it in your eyes. You're just like me. Baki, Temari, and Kankuro gasping at his words. You and I are same. You're the only one here who knows. You're all alone just like I am. Gaara chuckles, his chuckle shifting to deranged laughter. Enough! The proctor interjects, stepping between the two. The match is over as a result of disqualification, and the winner is Gaara of the Desert. The preliminary round is concluded, he announces. Naruto simply gazes at the boy before turning his back and walking towards his teammate, already being lifted onto a stretcher by medical ninja. Elsewhere, the double steel doors go flying as fire crashes into them, smoke filling the room as canine-like figures trudge in, a man-like silhouette with glowing red eyes following. Fugaku marches in to be met with the sight of a setup akin to laboratory, machinery and equipment strewn about, with a large empty glass cylinder at the end of the room, large enough to fit a grown man, connected to an oxygen tank. 3 large electronic screens line the far wall. The wolves go about searching the room as Fugaku allows himself a good look around. Suddenly static is visible and audible on the screens before 3 identical clear pictures are visible. A pale man in a cylinder identical to the one a few feet away, wearing an oxygen mask, eyes closed. Orochimaru, Fugaku, a pleasure to hear your voice again after so many years. How long has it been? Don't know and don't care, he responds pointedly. Why'd you leave before we got to speak in person? Are you afraid? Fugaku questions, Orochimaru chuckling in response. Forgive me, but I'm not feeling too well at the moment, as you can see. I can tell. Fugaku says, noting the man's injuries. Who did the job? He didn't finish it, Frankie, but not too bad if I say so myself. It'll be better when I'm done with you. Another laugh leaves Orochimaru. Believe it or not, a child did this. One of Minato's litter. He's the eldest, if I'm not mistaken. The one you all revile in that pit you call home, he reveals. Fugaku's eyebrows, rising before a smirk, is on his face. At a boy Naruto, he says to himself proudly, well, that's actually partly the reason why I'm here. That child is one of my students. You put your hands on him, my son, my daughter, and my other student, meaning you've signed your own death warrant. You don't need to lose any more sleep about Minato because I'm going to kill you myself, Fugaku says coldly, Orochimaru chuckling for a 3rd time. Deja vu, is that right? Whatever plans you have for the Sharingan, you won't live to see them. Running after babies because Itachi and I were too much for you to handle. And even now you can't stand to be in the same room with me. How pathetic. One of the so-called legendary 3, it must be embarrassing, the Uchiha leader scoffs. The Sharingan is valuable. Dear Fugaku, but I'll have you know I may have found something even better. You take good care of Naruto for me. That boy is going to be very important to the future. You probably already know that, though, with those eyes of yours. He'll be unlike anything the shinobi world has seen. Until next time, then, Orochimaru says before the screens go dark, leaving Fugaku standing with his growling companions. So Orochimaru's seen it too. Minato won't be happy about this, he sighs, turning to the pack. The lowly vermin knew I was coming. Thanks for all your help. Now get some distance. I'm burning this place to ground, the Uchiha says, eyes still glowing crimson red in the darkness. Preliminary round battle arena. Minato stands before the advanced genin, save for one, and their sensei with hate by his side. So the finals are set and decided. He speaks. Kankuro of the Desert v Shino Aburame, Shikamaru Nara v Temari of the Desert, Niji Hyuga v Hizaru Hajiwara, Mito Uzumaki Namikaze v Satsuki Uchiha, Gaara of the Desert v Sasuke Uchiha, and Mema Uzumaki Namikaze v Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. All the participants share glances, the tension palpable. The finals will be held in a month's time. You are advised to use this time wisely for training. The preliminaries are concluded. The prodigal son, the only sound in the room is of Inoichi sobbing. Satsuki is silent, though her eyes are red indicating the same. Minato, Naruto, Menma, and Tsunade watch on, all others somberly, Naruto showing no emotion. Ino lays in the bed, sedated and unconscious. She'll be fine, Inoichi. It will take time, but I'm perfectly capable of healing these injuries, Tsunade assures. The Yamanaka's head is down for a moment before he turns, grabbing the Hokage by his coat to everyone's shock. How could you let this happen, Minato? He demands. What do you mean let it happen? It was sanctioned combat. These are the Chunin exams, Minato responds calmly. Don't give me that crap, Minato. She could have been killed. He fires back. That was a risk. She was informed by her sensei before accepting to compete in the exams. And you know I never would have allowed that to happen. Even if Naruto and Satsuki didn't intervene, a fraction of a second would have been more than enough time for me to stop that. You know who I am, Minato answers coolly, Inoichi still gripping his coat, while Menma steps towards the two, Tsunade doing the same. Where is he anyway? Mr. I'll protect with my life. He questions angrily, releasing Minato. Where was he when this happened, he demands. Fugaku has been out of the village for the last 3 days on an S-class assignment. He wasn't present for the preliminaries, Minato replies, Satsuki's eyebrows rising for a moment. S-class? Inoichi turns around to face Naruto. Thank you for protecting my daughter, he says. There's no need to thank me. Frankly, even if I hadn't intervened, the Hokage would have been more than fast enough to stop anything more from happening. Naruto responds plainly, Menma balling a fist, a frown marring his face. Ino needs time to rest. For now I'm going to need all of you to leave, Tsunade asks. Jonin Lounge, Hokage Tower. Guy, Kakashi, Asuma, and Kurenai are all seated on couches around a coffee table. Kakashi next to Guy. I still can't quite fathom what we saw, Kakashi. Did it really happen? Guy glances to his friend. You mean a genin opening 5 of the 8 inner gates? Kakashi questions. Guy shaking his head at the dig. Not that part, jerk. I mean the other part. Guy responds, the masked Jonin staring into his cup. That boy. To think Lord Fourth has a son like that. There's nothing Lee could have done to win that fight. Nothing at all. That speed and strength. The elemental mastery. And that chakra. Just what kind of training has Lord Fourth put that boy through? Minato-sensei didn't train Naruto, Kakashi answers, earning a look of surprise from Guy and others present. What? He didn't? But how? Where else could the boy have seen such development from? Guy questions. I've known Minato-sensei since I was 6 years old, Guy. He did not train that boy. Neither did Lady Kushina. Their fighting styles are nothing alike. Their taijutsu, even the wind-style manipulation, and jutsu he showed are completely different to Minato-sensei's. It looked to me like whoever trained him isn't from the Hidden Leaf, Kakashi says. That's quite the claim, Kakashi, Asuma adds. But it still makes the most sense, he responds. That chakra of his, Kurenai adds, I've never felt anything like it. It was if he isn't even H-. Kurenai doesn't finish her sentence, not knowing how to phrase what she was about to say differently. Hokage Tower, Minato's office. I'm sure you can understand my position. The fact that I wasn't informed that the Hidden Sand would be sending a Jinchuriki to compete is very disappointing. Minato voices. Gaara's Jonin sensei standing before him. Of course. Apologies again, Lord Fourth, Baki apologizes. I've already reached out to the 4th Kazekage. As Gaara's Jonin instructor, can you assure me that Gaara is stable? Baki opens his mouth but doesn't speak, glancing away, Minato sighing at the response. Look, I won't take any drastic measures for now, but if at any point between now and the conclusion of the exams, I get the impression that Gaara is a real security risk, I will act and bar him from the exam at the drop of a hat. I also want to make it clear to you, while you're here, that if I feel like having him under surveillance while he's within the village walls, I'm going to do that, Minato explains calmly. Baki nods in agreement. He's not about to argue with the most powerful shinobi in the world in his own territory. Very well, then. Thank you, Baki. The pleasure is mine, Lord Hokage, the Sand Shinobi respectfully utters before departing, shutting the door behind himself and leaving Minato alone, who peels a piece of paper with a seal on it out of one of his desk drawers. The Heaven Curse mark. It'll take a couple of weeks, maybe. He won't be able to get rid of the mark completely, unfortunately, as he doesn't have whatever original sealing formula Orochimaru used to create it, but he feels confident of engineering a way to safely assimilate it with Sasuke's own chakra network and allow him to at least activate it safely. He made the same offer to Anko years ago, after applying the same restrictive seal, but she'd refuse vehemently. With Hizadaru, the night sky, littered with stars, hangs over as Hizadaru sits on the bench, the old man dressed in overalls, his face greased up, a paper in his hand seemingly occupying. My, quite a lot you brought to me today. The old man muses, speaking in code. MHMH, he responds, taking a mouthful of the cup of noodles in his hand to the mouth. And Fugaku isn't in the village at the moment, you say. That loose cannon's probably gone on a self-assigned assassination mission, the old man says. Snake's boy got drawn against me in the exam and forfeited. Do you think he knew who I was? Hizadaru chuckles. No, I doubt that. He was likely planted by Orochimaru to keep tabs on Sasuke and his reaction to the curse mark. The outcome of the exam was inconsequential, the old man surmises. We should snatch him, the boy suggests. Oh no, I know that one from a long time ago. He's cut from the same cloth we deal in. He'd very likely take measures to delete himself and any useful information completely before we could retrieve anything, the old man responds. Hizadaru inwardly grumbles. He might know something about Kaori's sister. You've brought me very good intel, but perhaps what sticks out to me most are the details you've given me concerning Minato's eldest. To counter the Hidden Lotus successfully by simply infusing his own chakra, along with the other information. He sounds like quite the prodigy. There's someone else we need to keep an eye on. Danzo knows very well that boy is despised by most in the village and isn't too close to his family either. That combination could make him a prime candidate for recruiting. Fugaku being his Jonin instructor just happens to be a big problem, and perhaps not worth the headache. Too bad I can't go all out against him if we face each other in the finals. What a rumble that would be. Hizadaru smiles to himself, Danzo shaking his head. You getting promoted can benefit our goals in the long term, of course. But remember, never show your hand. Hizadaru finishes in unison with the old man while rolling his eyes. With Memna, he sits on the edge of his bed staring at a picture of himself, and, flashback, 6 years prior, bro, he calls seeing the blonde walk away. Big bro, I'm going to play ball with Kiba and his friends. Come on, he shouts, gesturing to his brother to come along. Naruto looks on at the boy. Every time Menma has him around his friends, he feels invisible. The others make it a point to not acknowledge him in any way. He'd rather actually be alone. He knows it isn't Menma's fault, but it's not like he's going to do anything about it either. It's bigger than him. Some other time, Menma. I'm not feeling well, he says, turning and walking away, leaving a dejected Menma flashback, and he tucks the now ancient picture back in his drawer, shutting it. He'll let his mother focus on Mito for the next month. His father has his own responsibilities, so he doesn't plan on bothering him either. This next month he's going to punish himself. He's going to go to hell and come back. He saw what happened to Lee, but that won't faze him. There isn't a conceivable reality where he loses this fight. He can't, he muses to himself, lifting his hand, blue lightning-natured chakra dancing around it in the darkness of his room for a moment. It sparks up again, this time a dark red-colored hue. He won't lose. He'll stop breathing before he loses. New Uchiha clan compound. Show me your neck, Mikoto orders Sasuke, having already spoken to Minato days ago. The boy gazes back at her reluctantly to her ire. Sasuke, do not make me angry. I said show me your neck, she demands, the boy begrudgingly complying, showing it to her, Makoto gritting her teeth and balling her fists at the sight. She wraps her arms around him, tears leaving her eyes. Sasuke wanted to push her off, but choosing to be considerate. That disgusting lowlife. No, it won't happen. She'll be dead and buried before she loses the sun too. 3 days later, Jiraiya sits in front of Minato's desk, a hard frown on his face, as if the day, young as it is already ruined. The Sharingan, huh? So his goal is still that silly aspiration of acquiring all jutsu. He muses, clearly Minato responds. And going after Fugaku's youngest son, because he knows the man himself, and Itachi are out of the question, Jiraiya adds, pinching the bridge of his nose, are there any depths left you won't sink to Orochimaru? He questions out loud. It doesn't appear so to him. All indications suggest that he would have done the same thing to Fugaku's daughter as well. It just happened that Naruto was there to protect her. Speaking of which, you say that Naruto fought him. Jiraiya questions, as if to suggest Minato had been joking. Are you sure about that, Minato? No offense, but I have trouble believing that. I'll be honest. Believe it, a voice interjects, both heads turning to see Fugaku, standing in front one of the windows of the office that overlooks the village. The man told me himself. He says, stepping into the room, "You're back already? You found him." Minato questions. The rat escaped through another of his holes, apparently. He told me himself that Naruto took his arm away, he says, earning a gasp from Jiraiya. Fugaku produces a bag, tossing it onto the table. Minato opening it and taking a look before pushing it across the desk to Jiraiya, who looks inside. Several hidden sound headbands, stained in blood. That isn't possible. He's a child, Jiraiya utters in disbelief. That's not all he is actually, he says, turning his head to Minato. Orochimaru also told me Naruto is the one he wants now, he says. Minato's eyes widening before a dark look is etched in his blue eyes. What? He asks, fury evident in his cool tone. He could have been lying, but we already know he wants the Sharingan, so frankly there's no reason to. And the fact that he told me suggests that he's confident that by some miracle that's going to happen. The only miracle is him living. I'll wipe this so-called hidden sound away from the face of the earth by myself before I allow him to come near my son. Minato utters coldly, a bead of sweat running down Jiraiya's voice. He knows how dangerous his student is, and what he's capable of when that look is in his eyes. Hold on now. Minato, we agreed you would allow me to deal with Orochimaru, the sage interjects. Agreed? Fugaku questions, he's still alive, pal. What have you been doing in the meantime? Where were you 3 days ago while he was in here running around, preying on kids? Probably off somewhere being a pervert, Fugaku scoffs. Jiraiya standing up and the two coming face to face, inches from one another. It disappoints me to hear you address your sensei this way, Fugaku. After all these years, you still don't have a shred of respect to show me. Jiraiya questions, smirking. Nope. Sorry, Fugaku responds plainly. You let your feelings get in the way when you had the chance to finish that rat, and have continued to do so for years. So now it's off your hands. I'm going to kill your friend myself, and if you have a problem with it, let's see you do it first, Fugaku retorts coolly while smirking back, Jiraiya's own expression shifting into a frown. Enough, Minato interjects, the Chunin exams are in a month's time. My attention will be on ensuring that takes place without a single thing out of place. Once that's over, we will turn our attention to Orochimaru. Fugaku's right, sensei. The longer he's alive, the higher the risk of him running amok in other jurisdictions, and the blame for that coming back to the Leaf. He's been allowed to live for too long. Then let me deal with him, Jiraiya insists, turning to Minato. Just shut up already. You sound pathetic, Fugaku scoffs. Fugaku? Minato reprimands as Jiraiya swiftly turns back to the Uchiha, the clan leader unflinching. Stop speaking to sensei like this. It isn't right. Jiraiya-sensei, I'm sorry, but this is out of my hands now. Whatever this hidden sound nonsense is, it needs to be crushed before it starts stepping on the wrong people's toes, Minato says with finality. Don't worry, Fugaku says to the elder ninja as they gaze into one another's eyes. Jiraiya smiling challengingly. I'll bring a piece of him back to you. he says, stepping past the elder ninja towards Minato. How's my team holding up? With Sasuke? Please, Kakashi-sensei, train me. Help me get prepared for the finals, Sasuke begs, having dragged himself up the tall butte. Kakashi looks at the boy for a moment before sighing. All right, he says. With Naruto, he bolts upright, sweating profusely, tossing the covers to one side and making a beeline for the bathroom on his knees, his dinner coming back up. He stands, letting the water run and splashing it all over his face, his breathing only now beginning to slow. He doesn't even remember which one it was this time. Usually he remembers the most common one. He always remembers that one when it happens. He pushes the flush on his toilet, stepping back of his bathroom. He grunts a hand moving to his ribs. He's really starting to feel these injuries now. His brow furrows as he hears a knock on the front door. A knock on his door? Since when? He makes his way out of his room, through the living room, and towards the door, pulling it open. Fugaka-sensei, he greets the Uchiha, stepping back, inviting him to step in. Inviting someone into his home, a foreign feeling this. You missed the preliminaries, Naruto says as the Uchiha walks into the neatly organized space. I've been away for a bit, snake hunting. Duty calls, he says, Naruto turning to look him in the eye after shutting the door. Were you successful? Not exactly, he responds, but that will come. Well done on protecting your teammates, Naruto. And on a personal level, I want to thank you for protecting my daughter. You don't know what it means, the Uchiha expresses gratefully. There's no need to thank me, he responds. Congratulations on the preliminaries. You and I both know when I'm not around. I expect you step up for Team 12-inch, Fugaka says, smiling. If it were up to me, you'd be up for Jonin, frankly, but for now. You're certain to make Chunin in my eyes, Fugaka says, ruffling the boy's head whose sweat drops at the gesture but doesn't complain. Sasuke is going to be training with Kakashi for the next few weeks. So I'll be making sure Satsuki gets ready. I want you to come train with us. I'll have to decline, Sensei. I already had something in mind. Naruto respectfully declines, Fugaka smirking. Look at you, planning on writing your name all over that tournament board, huh? Naruto shrugs in response. With Ino injured, I just also think it makes more sense for you to take this chance to focus on Satsuki. You can help her continue to develop her proficiency with her Sharingan and fire style, he adds, Fugaka's smirk growing. Ever the ninjutsu expert. All right, Naruto. If you change your mind, you know where to find me, the Uchiha says, walking towards the door. With Kabuto, he stands in a dark room, beneath the hidden leaf candles lining the walls. One of his master's safe houses that was never found. Said master is on a screen before him, heavily bandaged. Are you certain of what you've just said, Lord Orochimaru? He utters in disbelief. Come now, Kabuto. Don't insult me, Orochimaru scoffs. The wood style of the first Hokage, he repeats. You say the boy stopped 5 of the 8 inner gates of the Hidden Lotus. Orochimaru questions. Affirmative, my lord. Orochimaru chuckles darkly at the confirmation. He is the one, Kabuto. There's no doubt in my mind about it. The Sharingan will remain one of our objectives, but that boy is now our priority. If there is truly a shinobi in this world who could be the second coming of the god of shinobi, that individual's body must be mine. He could be the key to all of our plans, but could also be the one to ruin them all. With him at his full potential, Minato, Fugaku, the entire Akatsuki, and the other 4 Kage. Well, 3 now, he muses, chuckling. None of them would be able to stop me. And if that doesn't end up being the case, then he can't be allowed to live. The man speaks. He's the 4th son. How will we go about bringing him to us? Kabuto questions. Patience, Kabuto. You see, unlike Sasuke, that boy is despised in the leaf. Even amongst his own kin, he is an outcast. He has no reason to hold any allegiance to any will of fire. His eyes mirror the hatred in his heart. If we can take advantage of that hate, he will turn his back to the leaf, the Sannin surmises. Remain in the leaf for the time being until the exams are concluded and await further instructions. Uzumaki Namake's training ground. So you want me to train you, huh? Jiraiya muses, Menma standing across from him. It's best if Mom focuses all her attention on Mito. Dad is the Hokage. I can't expect him to give up a month before the Chunin exam's training me, he explains. Jiraiya chuckles at his sneaky reasoning. Minato can just use his shadow clones. The boy really wants to prove himself to his father without his direct help. MHMH, all right then. I already have something in particular in mind, Jiraiya complies, Menma grinning from ear to ear. Before we get started, though, there's someone I need to have a word with, the Sannin adds. Hidden Leaf General Hospital, Shinobi Wing, she lays in her bed, fast asleep. Inoichi sitting by her side, face showing clear signs of sleep deprivation. Tsunade walks in, holding a clipboard. All right, Inoichi, if you don't go home, get clean and get something to eat, I'm throwing you out of here myself, she says firmly. Give me a break, Tsunade, he grumbles. You really want your daughter waking up to see you like this? Well, I won't allow it, she says firmly, holding a fist up, the Yamanaka grumbling once more to himself before lifting himself from the seat, planting a kiss on his daughter's forehead before exiting the room, Tsunade following. Their footsteps fade before another pair begins to become audible, growing closer to the room. A figure steps forward, darkening the doorway to the room, overlooking the girl. He takes a few steps forward, coming to stand at the foot of the bed. Silence hangs over the room as he begins to lift his hand. You lost, pal? A voice questions. Gaara turns Kami to see the Uchiha girl standing there, a Leaf Jonin with brown hair with her, leaning against the doorway. Satsuki stares the redhead down with a frown. Damn the political consequences. She'll kill this weirdo right here and now before he hurts her friend again. Fugaku watches on Kami. So this is the Jinchuriki of the Hidden Sand. MH, it's you. Where's the blonde one? Don't you worry about Naruto, 'cause the way it's looking to me now you might not even get to see him, she venomously utters to a nonchalant Gaara. I have no interest in you, he responds, the girl gritting her teeth even tighter. You're just a child. Your hatred isn't comparable to mine, but his is. That is why I want him, he adds, Fugaku frowning a bit at the comment. All right, pal, he speaks again for a second time, gesturing behind himself. Hightail it. Now he orders calmly. The redhead gazes at both of them for a few seconds before calmly walking towards the exit, past both of them. Satsuki briskly walks towards the bed to check on Ino. Fugaku remains by the doorway. That kid is being followed by AMBU and he probably knows. If they'd been a few seconds later, it might have gotten messy in here. With Naruto, sitting against the trunk, beneath the shade of his favorite tree, wraps another scroll closed, placing it in the row. Suddenly his preparations for his departure are interrupted. You've gotten older. He looks up to see the silhouette of a grown male sitting in the tree. The figure jumps down to stand over him. Lord Jiraiya, he greets simply. Naruto, the man smiles back. Well, aren't you just a spitting image of your father? He says, looking at the boy. How you been, kiddo? Healthy, Naruto responds plainly. I can see. Congrats on making it to the finals of the Chunin exams. Your dad told me all about it. These next few weeks are going to have to be a whole lot of training for you. Why don't I help you out with that? Jiraiya offers, expecting the boy to jump ecstatically at the opportunity. No, thanks, he declines. No thanks, he repeats. Have you forgotten by some miracle who I am, boy? Jiraiya questions boisterously, getting ready tea. I remember who you are. Please don't start posing and dancing, he responds, Jiraiya's sweat dropping at the comment. This kid seems to take after Fugaku more than Minato, he muses, sweat dropping. You're no fun at all, are you? He questions, snatching one of the scrolls on the ground and jumping back. Naruto stands up, tucking the rest away while sighing. Tell you what, if you can take this scroll back from me, I dash. He doesn't finish his sentence as the air leaves his body, a kick meeting his stomach, releasing his grip on the scroll and sending him into the dirt, the Sannin jumping back to his feet. Such speed. That was Jonin level, he says to himself, clutching his stomach, while Naruto stands there with the scroll in his hand. There, he responds, turning his back. Oh no, we're not done yet. "You're gonna show me what you're made of," Jiraiya shouts, sprinting towards a blonde who whips around, blocking a chop to the side of the neck, swinging a kick that Jiraiya parries. The two exchange a flurry of blows, canceling each other out. Jiraiya stepping back and Naruto scoffing. "I don't have time for this," he sneers. The two sprint towards one another. Jiraiya launching a flying kick that the boy sidesteps, swinging a spinning one of his own that the older male parries. A flurry of blows flies between the two, Naruto scowling, while Jiraiya laughs ecstatically, the genin and older shinobi jumping back from one another. The two spring towards one another again, Jiraiya's eyes widening as suddenly the blonde begins to glow a white hue. He tries to dig his heels into the earth as they approach one another. Too late with Temari, Kankuro, and Baki. Just what good is moaning supposed to do? Temari asks, visibly frustrated. "I'm not moaning. I'm just being honest, Temari. I'm really worried." He's clearly become more unstable as the exams have progressed. Kankuro responds. "The exams have provided ideal conditions for him to act more violently," Baki speaks. The two genin turning their heads, but it's only provoked the bloodlust of the beast. He seems to react particularly differently to that kid. The blonde one's teammate, Kankuro, adds. "Naruto," Temari says. "The Hokage's already had a word with me about him. The two of you just keep an eye on him. With Ino, he was here." Ino questions. "That freak. I would have killed him in this damned hospital before I let him do anything to you," Satsuki growls, responding to her friend. "That boy Satsuki. Is he facing Naruto in the finals?" Fugaku asks. "No, he's gonna fight Sasuke," she responds, looking down, Fugaku frowning in thought. "He'll have to check in on Kakashi and Sasuke later. Make sure they're not slacking off. He seems to have some kind of obsession with Naruto," she voices. "Where is Naruto?" the Yamanaka asks. She hasn't spoken to him since that day, when she refused to listen to him, and he protected her again. Is he still mad at her? "He's preparing for the finals," Fugaku answers. Hokage Tower, Minato's office. "Oh, I see," Minato says, his son standing in front of him. "And so, I need your permission to leave the village until the commencement of the finals," Naruto finishes. "That isn't a problem, Naruto. I was actually hoping to help you out with preparing," the village leader adds. "That won't be necessary," he responds to Minato's dejection. All right. Well, there's no problem, Naruto. Until the exams are concluded, you're not on official duty anyway, so I'll grant you permission to leave." "Thank you, Lord Hokage," he responds, turning and leaving. "Good luck, Naruto," he adds, the boy turning and acknowledging with a simple nod before departing, leaving a somber Minato. Is he ever going to get his son back? He sighs to himself, taking the Heaven Curse mark seal tag back out and continuing his work on it. "Leave General Hospital Shinobi Wing. You're still the same clown you've always been," Tsunade scoffs, patching Jiraiya up. "How was I supposed to know the kid was going to set off an exploding clone on me, or that he can use shadow clones?" Jiraiya pleads his defense as Tsunade tightens the bandage around his temple. He whimpers as she gives him a smack to the head. "Minato told you about him, and you're surprised he can summon shadow clones?" "No, you were just being stupid," she retorts, to which he sighs. "A child fought Orochimaru and survived. I just can't believe it, Tsunade," he says in a more serious tone. "Even if he held back, which is probably the case, it's still... Minato showed you. The proof, didn't he?" she asks in a more somber tone, careful of her wording, to which he nods. He's clearly a generational talent, and yet Minato's confessed to not teaching him any of what he knows, Jiraiya muses. "Could it be that I was... He'll have to go look for Menma, so they can get started soon. The brat might well be in for the fight of his life. With Menma, that jerk, probably off somewhere prying on undressed women. Damned pervert." Menma huffs, marching through village. He turns the corner to be met with the sight of a none other than Niji Hyuga, carrying a few bruises and cuts. He frowns, images of Hinata's bruised and bloodied body rushing back to him. Well, someone's been hard at work," Menma speaks, coming to stand across from the Hyuga clansman. The Hyuga simply responds, continuing to walk past Menma. That's what I want to see. Once I've kicked Naruto's ass. You're up next, so you better make it worth the while, he says, the older genin coming to a stop. He turns his head, making eye contact with Rookie. You just focus on doing enough to make Chunin. Because you don't even stand a chance against your brother, the boy responds smirking, wiping Menma's own off of his face. And what makes you think that, he questions, narrowing his eyes. You're a talented boy, there's no doubt about it. But your brother is cut from a different cloth from you. It's that simple. Are you some kind of an expert on that loser? I've seen enough to know he's nothing like you, he responds. Yeah, and that's exactly why he doesn't stand a chance. Menma fires back, Niji simply smirking. Ignorance is bliss. You and Sasuke. I'm praying I get to face all of you, so that it becomes clear as day who's who in this village, he utters firmly. The Hyuga simply continues to walk, not giving another response. He will lose. With Naruto, his legs are crossed as he sits on floor of his living room. He had wanted to depart from his place of refuge, as had always been the case. Years ago, but the Toad Sage had annoyingly ruined that, so he'll leave from here. In any case, it makes no difference. He grunts slightly, a hand reaching for his side. His chakra had done a considerable bit of work in healing and suppressing the injuries he'd suffered at the hands of Rock Lee, but he's definitely been feeling his battle wounds more as the days have passed. He refused to be examined by the medics to the near murderous rage of a certain blonde Sannin. He might be nursing a few fractures. He bites into his thumb, drawing a drop of blood, weaving through the old signs, not missing a beat before slamming a hand on the floor of his living room, a sealing array springing from it to surround him. It's time! Reverse summoning jutsu, he exclaims, smoke immersing with a poof sound, remaining for a few moments before lifting to reveal him gone. With Fugaka, your brother will be preparing for the finals with Kakashi. Naruto says he has his own plans for the month. Outside the village, the elder Uchiha speaks. He resists a small smile as he notes the look of intrigue mixed with disappointment at this mention of his blonde male student. So it'll be just you and me, which could be quite beneficial to you actually. Kakashi tells me your opponent is a wielder of the Uzumaki adamantine sealing chains, as well as the Nine Tails chakra. That means we have a whole lot work ahead of us, he says firmly, his daughter nodding in response with a determined look etched on her face. He believes in Naruto fully, and he knows that with his guidance his daughter will be ready as well. Satsuki gazes on at her father with determination. She will not lose this fight. It isn't an option. With Naruto, a bird call echoes throughout the canopy as Naruto pulls himself up by a vine on the steep incline. He takes a glance below, the jungle stretching out below, clouds obscuring the view in parts. He looks up ahead, pulling himself up again and taking a leap to stand on a flatter bit of terrain fog ahead of him. His head lifts as he hears roars once in the distance from all directions. A pair of eyes glow in the fog as a silhouette on all fours slowly approaches, its size comparable to that of a fully grown horse. The silhouette emerges, mane billowing in the cool wind that passes every few moments. Naruto can't help the smirk that comes onto his face as the lion walks closer. I knew that scent the moment it hit my nose. The great intruder himself, the beast Greet, speaks in a low voice, Naruto visibly trying to catch his breath. It's been a while and the altitude is showing that to him. Geto, he greets smiling as the beast stands before him, towering over him. Well, you're not as tiny as you once were, brat. I don't suppose I'm worth running from anymore. The beast mocks, Naruto scoffing, smirk still in place. You wish, he retorts, the beast turning and gesturing with its head. Jump on then. Before those little lungs run out of breath completely, Naruto complies, hopping onto the animal's back before it springs away, leaping through the terrain with speed and agility that defy logic for its size. Training Ground 7. The younger Kunoichi swings her katana laterally, blocked by her teacher's own. She aims a swinging leg to the side of the head only for this to be caught by a hand before a foot meets her midsection, sending her back onto the ground. Kushina catching her katana and holding both in either hand. Mito jumps back to her feet, already bruised and bloodied, eyes now red, claws on display. Your opponent is an Uchiha, Mito Kushina speaks, a Sharingan wielder being trained by one of his most adept wielders to emerge from the clan in generations. You can't hope to simply rely on the Nine Tails chakra to win this, Kushina speaks. Mito taking her words in for a moment before sighing and nodding, eyes returning to their original color and claws retracting. Your sealing chains can still be decisive, but not if you allow yourself to fall under a genjutsu which, in this case, can happen merely from eye contact. This will likely be more difficult than facing your sister. Kushina continues, Mito nodding again in affirmative. Facing her sister was difficult, but she expects this to be even harder. We'll get to the strategic element of your preparation, but for now we need to focus on further honing your physicality and sensory. The Sharingan's ability to read and predict movements, including hand signs, is unparalleled. So we need to maximize your base speed and strength as much as we can without the multiplier of the Nine Tails chakra, she speaks, tossing the younger Kunoichi's katana back to her, who catches it by the handle in one hand. Now again! With Naruto, thunderous roars echo out as Naruto, still on Geto's back, approaches the huge stone, lions of different sizes surrounding them, and more roars coming from the surrounding jungle and lush savanna valley below. He drinks in the grand view of the summit as the roars of welcome continue. Geto comes to stand before the stone, Naruto getting off and turning for a moment to bow his head in acknowledgement and gratitude of the welcome. He turns back toward the large stone, the towering stone lions on either side of the open doors still there. He steps forward into the darkened space, walking towards the center where a fire sits, bringing into view the gargantuan male lion laying before it, his eyelids lifting to reveal his golden eyes as Naruto comes to stand before him, bowing his head while greeting. "Chief, Naruto," Helios responds in a thunderous bellow, "welcome home." And so, we witness the beginning of a new Naruto, one forged in loneliness, but driven by the power of the ancient wood style. His path may be uncertain, but one thing is clear. This version of Naruto is not the same boy who once sought attention from the villagers. He's becoming something far more dangerous. But what will this newfound power cost him? Will his heart remain pure, or will the weight of his past push him toward a darker future? Only time will tell. Thanks for watching part 4 of What If Naruto Was Neglected by His Family and Released with Style. If you enjoyed this twist on the Naruto story, be sure to hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to Anime T23 for more what-if scenarios, and let us know in the comments what you think will happen next in Naruto's journey. Will he remain a hero, or will his power be his undoing? You won't want to miss it. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep watching, and keep imagining the endless possibilities of anime. This is Anime T23, signing off.